Good evening, everyone. Before we get started, there's a special announcement from our district translator, Ms. Paula Balbuena.
You? Oh, now it is. Thank you, President López. Buenas tardes, habla Paula Balbuena. Si necesita servicios de interpretación al español, llame al 1805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 540-020-915 más la tecla numeral. Este es un número totalmente gratis. Nuevamente, llame al número de teléfono 1805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 540-020-915 más la tecla numeral. También puede acceder a estas instrucciones en nuestro sitio web en mcs4kids.com, dirigiéndose a la parte inferior en la página, haciendo clic en Quick Links y haciendo clic nuevamente en Board Agendas para ir a la agenda de esta noche. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone, to the Modesto City Schools 1485th Board Meeting of November 21st, 2022. This meeting is now called to order. In closed session, Board gave direction to legal counsel. I will now conduct roll call. And I will remind everyone that I will do roll call throughout this evening for every vote, as we have one of our board members via Teams. Student Rep Patel,
Here.
Trustee Irvin,
Present.
Trustee Maestas,
Here.
Trustee Marks,
Present.
Trustee Mejia,
Here.
Trustee West,
Here.
Vice President Brown.
I'm present by way of Teams.
Thank you. President Lopez present as well. Please stand and join me for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Again, good evening, everyone. This open session meeting of the Board of Trustees is being live streamed at the direction of the board. The live stream is available on the district website, and the recording will be available for viewing the day after the board meeting. Modesto City Schools have been adjusted to follow health and safety precautions until further notice. MCS has also provided an opportunity for public to provide comments. It is outlined on the agenda. The public has been given an opportunity to call and leave a voicemail. Send us a comment via email or appear in person before the board. Any public comment received via email and voicemail following the posting of the board agenda and prior to noon the day of the board meeting will not be read out loud, but have been transcribed, and printed copies have been provided to each board member prior to the start of the board meeting, and they're also available for your viewing out in the lobby. The voice and email public comments will be attached to future board meeting minutes for approval. This practice will continue until further notice. For members of the public that are interested in commenting in the future, we welcome your comments. For those of you with us this evening that would like to talk during our public comment period and on an item that is not on the agenda, if the item you want to talk to is on the agenda, you'll wait until that agenda moment. But if there's something you want to tell us that is not on the agenda, please fill out a public comment requisition form. It's a little index card that are located in the back. You fill them out and you give them to Miss Antoinette in the back. She'll wave in her hand right now. Please fill it out completely. If you need translation, please indicate on the card and tell us what you will be speaking about. Everyone has 3 minutes to speak. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for a total of 30 minutes, okay? All right, and please do so right now, because once we get started with the public comments, we will not be accepting any more cards. I also want to remind you, if you wish to make a complaint against a specific district employee, you should follow the district's personnel complaint procedure. Copies of that procedure are available in the lobby, as are the agendas. Copies with outline procedures we will observe during the period for public comment. The right to address the board does not exempt a speaker from any potential liability for defamation. Okay, with that, I am pleased to welcome a student from El Vista Elementary, which will lead us in the flag salute this evening. So I'll ask Victoria Manjavar to please stand. Second grader Victoria is a top student in her class. Her classwork is excellent in all subjects. Victoria is great help to her classmates and always ensures students stay on task. She enjoys singing and entertaining others with her big personality. Following college, Victoria would like to become a teacher, hopefully an MCS teacher. Victoria, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone, please stand up.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May be seated.
This takes us to our welcome and announcement from our superintendent, Dr. Noguchi.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, President Lopez. Good evening, and thank you all for coming out tonight and those that are tuning in from their comfy couches at home. I do want to take this opportunity to give out a special recognition this evening, and that is to our guest teachers, otherwise known as our substitute teachers. Without them and without their deep commitment, we wouldn't be as successful as we are. Last Friday was National Substitute Educators Day, and our school sites across the district last week showed different ways of appreciating their different substitutes and their guest teachers. You know, COVID isn't as prevalent as it was a year ago, but it's still alive and well, as is the flu, and so we do have quite a few needs for substitutes. And what is amazing is our substitute fill rate right now, our guest teacher fill rate, is at 99.5. That is amazing. And that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for their dedication and their support to Modesto City Schools. So a huge thank you to them. You know, our guest teachers are not just substitutes, but they're trained, credentialed members of the Modesto City Schools. Over 140 guest teachers have participated in additional professional development this year. And that's gone throughout this year, and that's not even counting, we're only midway through. And so that's pretty amazing that we've got, out of our 600 guest teachers, 140 of them are continuing to grow their skills and invest in themselves. So Modesto City Schools truly is a benefit from that. So on behalf of Cabinet and the board and myself, I want to take a minute just to appreciate all the substitute teachers out there across Modesto City Schools. Little known fact, when I first became a teacher, I had moved from San Diego to Sacramento, and there wasn't any jobs back then. So this was in 1991-ish is when 1988, 89. And I came to Sacramento area, and there wasn't jobs. So I was a substitute actually for 2 years. And after 2 years of subbing, I still didn't get a job. And I actually went to a headhunter to say, here's $7,000, find me a job. These are my credentials. This is what I've done. I want to get out of the teaching profession. Lo and behold, the next week, I actually was hired, get this, as a history Spanish teacher at a junior high school. I don't know history that well, and I don't know Spanish at all. But at the beginning of school year, they do those enrollment adjustments, and they just kind of stick you in there until they can find a teacher. So that's how I started my teaching career way back in the day. Later, I became a middle school math teacher. So in closing, thank you for all that you do. For those that are tuning in, we will certainly celebrate you at the end of the year, as we do with many of our staff. But before I close, this is the week of Thanksgiving, right? It's the week of stopping and reflecting and really asking yourself, what are we thankful for? And I want to say I'm incredibly thankful for a very strong cabinet. I run them pretty hard. In fact, we were here Saturday for 6 hours doing professional development, so they had their one day off this weekend. So I want to thank them for all the work that they do. And I also want to thank this fabulous board. The success of a school district, and if you go and research successful school districts, it's from the top, which is the board, all the way down to the classroom. And I couldn't do the work that I do if it wasn't for your deep dedication to the students and the staff at Modesto City. So thank you. With that, I'll turn it over to President Lopez.
Thank you very much. I have, this moves us to our Board of Education members report. And so anyone wishing to speak and give a report to public, I have a couple lights. I'll start with Trustee West.
Well, Dr. Noguchi, I'd like to one-up you a bit. I was a substitute teacher for over 10 years, and boy, if you want to really know what's going on in those classrooms, just sub. So I give a lot of credit to those substitute teachers that we have in our district. When I moved to Modesto 35 years ago, that was the first job I got, was as a substitute teacher for Modesto City Schools. So I'm really proud to have worked with Modesto City for a long time. I think many of us attended the Johansson Fitness Center ribbon cutting ceremony last week, and what a joyful experience it was. And I think my favorite part was watching the students at Johansson take a tour of the fitness center, and it's beautiful, and get so excited over the beautiful facility that they're going to have. One of the students told me, he said, you know, what brings me to school is this, I lift weights, and he was standing in front of one of the weightlifting machines in awe. He was so excited. So that was a great, great, fun, festive thing to be a part of. And a few of us did the Salvation Army Kettle Kickoff. We missed Trustee Brown. I know normally he is there, but he's out of town right now. And that's an exciting, fun time to help a valuable, a valuable group that really, really helps our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Marks?
Yes, I had the same two on here that we did. It was a great couple of weeks since our last board meeting. But I wanted to say the Kettle Kickoff was the best one I've ever attended, because I actually got to run around with my teammate, Omar Mejia, and try to get those bucks in the little bucket, running around, and 250 people, you're bumping around, and he had a big sombrero on. It was so fun. We had a great time. I think we did really well. But just for those of you who don't know, that's like the biggest fundraiser for them in Modesto. We're known nationwide for how we do it. This year wasn't as much as they've received in the past, but I think it was 159,000 that day came in, so it's a lot. So some people don't write checks and things and put them in ahead of time, but the Christmas Angels won again, and they've won, I don't know, almost every single year since Betty Bell Smith. I don't know, some of you know Betty Bell Smith, but she was a really special icon in our community. So it's wonderful, and it's helped so many people, and seeing the videos of the children that the Salvation Army helps, and just all the families that they're working with, and the seniors. So it was really fun to see some of the new things they're doing this year. So that was great. It was a good time to be together with a few of us. But we missed you, Trustee Brown.
Trustee Irvin?
Yes, I was able to attend the BSUs, all the Central Region BSUs, and all of our BSUs and Modesto City Schools were at UC Merced on Friday for a conference, a regional conference, attended by over 150 students. Got to take a tour. No matter how many times I tour UC Merced, I still get turned around up there somehow. and some very informative and educational workshops that the students attended. So it was really good to be able to hang out with our students at UC Merced and, see the possibilities of, possibility of attending UC Merced, which is a premier university and also has a BS to MD program. So you can go there and enroll in Bachelor's of Science and be on track for MD, done all at UC Merced. So real good. Thank you.
Soon, the medical school. Trustee Mejia?
I saw that smirk, President. I saw that smirk when talking about UC Merced. Yeah, I just want to say the same. I was able to share. It was my first time being at a Kettle Kickoff. I hear a lot of great things. I had a lot of fun. It was great. I know a lot of children that benefit by the Salvation Army, some of their sports and some of their programs down there. And I think without them, it would be difficult for them to do any type of recreational sports. So I was happy to be there. And of course, saw lots of people you don't see throughout the year, especially I haven't seen people since the pandemic. So that was pretty awesome to see them at an event like that. And then, of course, the fitness center, that was incredible. It was amazing. I got to talk to a few students. They're pretty pumped up about the center in general. There were so many things that were blown away. So I was just really happy to be out there, and I was happy to see so many students, how excited their lives are going to be with that. Not just there, but for many more generations that are going to come after these students. So.
Very much. Vice President Brown?
Yes, the Johansson event was incredible. To think that we were able to do something like that prior to receiving bond money for high school improvements, kudos to the district for finding the way to bring that forward, to bring that incredible facility to Johansson High School. And also, thank you to those who participated in my stead at the Kettle Kickoff. Kenny Friedman, my good friend, who's one of the angels, says, if you're not going to be there, you have to have two people in your place. So thanks for doing my running, and I hope that you exceeded anything that I could possibly have done. I believe you did. And to just stay with the theme of this Thanksgiving, I want to thank everyone at the district, my colleagues, and all the incredible people that we get to work with. And I especially want to thank all of the people of Modesto who have recognized needs that we have in the district, supported us in bond measures, and as we watch the numbers and keep our fingers crossed and fall to our knees in prayer that this can actually come about and that we can continue the great work of improving our campuses. Can't wait for the announcement, but I believe that it's forthcoming pretty soon. So gratitude, thanks, and hope that you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving celebration.
Thank you very much. I don't have much of a report. I do just want to, again, thank everyone for their amazing work for this year. It's been a great experience working with you all. Thank you to everyone that makes up Modesto City Schools. That doesn't just mean anyone that has a MCS badge. That means the parents. That means those individuals in the community that care for our schools, that might not have grandchildren, might not have children, might not have relatives that go to our school or work at our school, but still care about our community schools. Each and every one of you guys deserve a thanks for everything that you've done, whether from input, from voting on items that will, forever impact the district. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate you being a part of this community. So from myself and from those who I represent, we thank you. So with that, I would like to move us to item A9, which is approval of consent. Oh, sorry, no. A8, which is recognitions, and we'll turn it over to Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, President Lopez. Good evening, Board Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Noguchi, and our MCS families and community here tonight. Thank you so much for attending tonight's board meeting. So this is the time where we get to acknowledge and show appreciation for the hard work, dedication, and innovation by our outstanding scholars, teachers, and staff. For our recognition tonight, we ask that our presenters, that when you come to read your nomination, you stand with your nominee and face the audience. So now for our recognition for tonight. Tonight, we are celebrating 7th grade Liloma Junior High student Kenna Middleton for the Character Trait Initiative. Classroom teacher Don Pitcock nominated Kenna, and Principal Sean Hurtado is here tonight with Ms. Pitcock to read the nomination.
And I will humbly allow Ms. Pitcock to read that as it was her nomination, so.
It is my great good fortune and luck to have Kenna as a student in my classroom, and it is certainly my honor to present her here tonight. Kenna is a remarkable young lady and truly could have been nominated for any of the 9 MCS character traits. Over the last several weeks, Kenna has taken initiative several times in the interest of herself, her classmates, and the benefit of her teacher. Kenna consistently jumps in to help whenever and wherever she sees the need. Recently, when the class was helping put together an activity to be completed the next day, Kenna didn't even ask. She just figured out exactly what needed to be done and started passing things out. She also gave directions. She is truly a force to be reckoned with. Modesto City Schools needs to keep an eye on this gem. She will do great things in the very near future, and she is extremely deserving of this recognition. Congratulations, Kenna.
And at this time, we'll have Superintendent Dr. Noguchi and Dr. West come down to meet Kenna for a photo. Jump in, jump in.
There you go. There we go. There you go. He doesn't have a problem with that. 2 and 3.
Hey, another one.
Mom needs photo op.
Okay. Thank you. Congratulations again, Kenna. And tonight, the board also planned to recognize MCS hero, Ms. Tamara McCarthy, classroom teacher at Enox High School, for her excellence in journalism instruction and education. Unfortunately, Ms. McCarthy could not be here this evening, but she will be recognized at a future board meeting. And with that, that concludes tonight's recognitions, and thank you all to our esteemed scholars, teachers, site admins, parents, and guests for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're moving on to A9, which is approval of consent agenda. And is there any, anyone wishing to make comments regarding consent agenda items? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move approval.
Moved by trustee Marks, seconded by trustee Mejia. I will take roll call. Student Board Rep Patel.
Here, or I.
Thank you. Trustee Irvin.
Aye.
Trustee Maestas.
Aye.
Trustee Marks.
Aye.
Trustee Mejia.
Aye.
Trustee West.
Aye.
Vice President Brown.
Aye.
President Lopez, aye. Motion carries unanimously. This takes us to approval of order of discussion and action items. Do I hear a motion to approve the order of discussions for this evening? Moved by trustee Mejia, seconded by trustee Maestas. I will again take roll call. Student Rep Patel.
I.
Trustee Irvin.
Aye.
Trustee Maestas.
Aye.
Trustee Marks.
Aye.
Trustee Mejia.
Aye.
Trustee West,
Aye.
Vice President Brown,
Aye.
President Lopez, aye. The approval of the order is approved unanimously. And this takes us to for the period of public presentations. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting and showing your interest in our schools. I have one card. Is that that's it for tonight? Okay, so we have one card this evening. When you come up, please say your name, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Our speaker for tonight is Debbie Martinez. Good evening, Debbie.
Good evening. Debbie Martinez. I have a community report out. Since you guys were able to report out, I have some cheers and Thanksgiving to give out too. First of all, what I'm handing out is one day this is what we too hope to see here in Modesto City Schools. My name is Debbie Martinez and I represent community. I wear several hats within the community, and I also have formed We Are La Raza Parents Union, social justice movement. What that is we're the voice for the voiceless. The families that cannot come to these board meetings because they don't know their pathway and how to navigate, how to advocate for their families, for their children. Today, I want to thank MCS for allowing us to have at least almost 10 families here on the other side of that wall venting on the poor quality of service that they receive. I shouldn't have to come to the governing board. There should be a pathway that community can dialogue with the district when we can't get our voices heard at the school sites. Ceres Unified School District, out of 28 districts that we're currently in, 3 counties, is the only one that hosts us. Where you see there is the next town hall meeting. First, We Are La Raza. Where you see on the smaller one is when we under the founding of my foundation, We Are La Raza Parents Union, we come together every other month. Families come together. As you saw today, gentlemen, we have lots of families. I brought 9 valid complaints, and we've only been in session for 90 days. That's pretty sad. We don't have what Ceres has. I would love to sit and dine with this governing board to help collaborate. In fact, when we have our We Are La Raza meeting, Turlock will be joining us because they want to know how to better serve. When will MCS welcome us in? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that concludes our speakers for tonight. And again, although we cannot engage in discussion or take formal action on items that are not on the agenda, we thank you for following our protocols and addressing the board, and for taking your time to share your views with us this evening. We really appreciate them. And for those that aren't here today and would like to come to our board meetings and tell us about your concerns for our district or your hopes for our district, we always welcome you. This takes us to our item B1, which is student representative to the board report. Student Rep Patel, good evening.
Thank you, President Lopez. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a great weekend. The Inter-High Council met these past 2 weeks, and the schools are making some good progress in having more collaborative activities with their student bodies and trying to get their students to engage with community service. Bayer High School is working on their winter festival and a drive-in movie, and they're also forming fun activities for their leadership. So they're trying to get their leadership class to go to the ice skating rink. Johansen High School was working on their week of thanks for Thanksgiving, their winter homecoming, and Feed the Can to encourage students to throw their food in the garbage can. And Enox High School had just had their powder puff, and they are now working on their winter formal. Modesto High School stated that they were working on developing service projects, as well as Grigori and Davis. And as a group, we gained insight on the ALCAP, or Local Control and Accountability Fund, and its purpose. So the Inter-High School representatives were encouraged to share their thoughts. Some thoughts that were shared there were thoughts of having better sports complexes, increasing the variety in extracurricular activities that they could choose from, better bathroom conditions, and creating a better and safer method for parking lots and crossing the street in their school sites. And lastly, I just wanted to say that time has definitely flown by so fast. I can't believe it's already Thanksgiving, but in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I just wanted to thank everybody here for welcoming me these past few months and allowing me to share my ideas and pushing student voice and really encouraging me to share those voices of other students and being able to make change at the forefront. So I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving celebration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This takes us to our next item, which is the California Schools Employees Association report, and I don't see anyone from their group this evening, so we'll be moving on to B3, which is a report on high school attendant boundaries, and this is Mr. Zerly. Good evening.
Thank you, and good evening, President Lopez, trustees. Tonight, we're going to give the board a report on a boundary study for our high school attendance areas. We'll discuss the history of our boundaries and the boundary study, goals of the boundary study, the formation of an internal boundary committee, review the existing boundary that we have, and 3 boundary scenarios, and we'll talk about a boundary timeline and next steps. And then, obviously, time for questions for the board or anyone else in attendance. We believe this study aligns with 2 of our district strategic goals. The first one is strategic goal 3, providing a safe, welcoming, and respectful learning environment for every member of the school community, while ensuring effective district-wide communication for students, families, and community partners. Anytime a school district even begins to discuss boundary analysis or boundary changes, communication is really the #1 key in this particular study. And then strategic goal 4.4, plan and implement short and long-term strategies to decrease declining enrollment. And when we see the scenarios, the existing one and the proposed, you'll see what we mean by possibly decreasing our declining enrollment. In preparation, or what brings us here today, so going back a couple of years in preparation and planning for SB 328 implementation, we formed a task force to help communicate the logistics for a 8:30 a.m. high school start time. Trustee Mejia served on this task force as board member representation, and it was important to the group at that time for us to consider equity and access, specifically for our South Modesto families, when we started identifying transportation services, and again, we'll talk more about that. And the current non-contiguous boundary for Downey does not allow for the same neighborhood access to their high school as other high schools. At that point in time, we were discussing 0 and 8th period activities because this is prior to SB 328 implementation. We no longer have 8th period, but that was a concern that the geographical distance between South Modesto and Downey, there was not equitable access to either 0 or 8th period. In June of 21, the board approved a contract with Davis Demographics for student forecasting and high school boundary study. And then on September 13th of 2021, the board appointed 3 trustees to serve on the high school boundary committee, and we'll talk about that in our next steps. The first task of the district was to form an internal boundary study committee made up of the positions you see on this slide, cabinet senior administrators, which we refer to as extended cabinet, or senior directors, high school principals, and then Davis Demographics led this particular work of this committee. Work began in the 21-22 school year with this initial group and concluded in June of 22 with 3 possible alternate boundary scenarios that we're going to review with you tonight. The current high school attendance boundaries were last studied in 2012, and they should be reviewed periodically to account for any enrollment variations, which in our case is magnified by our current feeder district structure, we have Modesto City Elementary Schools and then 7 elementary districts throughout the area that feed into our high schools beginning in ninth grade. So they're not all coming. If we were a unified district, it'd be much easier for us to forecast because they're all of our students. Now we have to gather data from not only our district, but 7 feeder districts. And in addition, it was very important to the SB 328 task force, as I mentioned earlier, to review equity and access of transportation and other services for each of our high school boundaries. And then the study would make a recommendation to the superintendent, who then would bring that to a subsequent board meeting for the Board of Trustees to consider. Some questions as we began this process that we talked about internally are what are the implications for a contiguous boundary at Downey? As you'll see, and we talked about, currently Downey is a non-contiguous boundary. What considerations do we need to consider for future housing developments? Most of our residential housing growth is in the northeast sector of Modesto, impacting Bayer, Enox High Schools, some for Gregory High School, but those have to be considered as we look at future students and capacities at our high schools. And then how can we maintain existing student capacities for each high school? We went in, we know we have 7 high schools. We did not want one at 2,500, the rest below 2,000. We wanted to maintain, keep our high school capacities at the current level. There wasn't a desire to change those and change the size of each of our high schools. These are our current 7 high school boundaries. We like to call this our fish because it looks like a fish when you look at it. And each high school location is represented by 2 dots in the boundary. So if you look, you can see the 2 dots in each one of the colored areas. That represents the location of the high school in that attendance boundary. And so you can see with Downey, Downey starts down here in South Modesto, and it ends right here about 99, and then picks up again in the Downey attendance area. And only Downey has a non-contiguous student boundary that creates a logistical challenge for many of our South Modesto families and also our transportation department. One further complication for a high school district is the fact that only 1 high school sits west of Highway 99. And you will see that portions of 4 high schools cross over Highway 99 into their boundaries. So it's on both sides of 99. And to complicate things for South Modesto, there are really only 2 ways to get across the river, either by Carpenter Road or Highway 99. The current numbers you see here, you'll see current numbers, and it says 2020 and then projection. They're being updated based on recent October 22 student enrollment numbers, not only for Modesto City Schools, but our elementary feeder districts. And so these numbers will be updated and made available for the upcoming committee review and work and talking about additional scenarios. None of the scenarios that you're going to see represent a perfect solution. And again, when you have 1 high school west of the main artery, Highway 99, it's really difficult to create really symmetrical boundaries that look like high school boundaries. And obviously, the Downey boundary does not look like any of the other boundaries that you see on this slide. This was the first scenario that was created by the internal work committee, and it represents our first attempt. Our desire, and again, that this was a desire, was to how can we create a contiguous boundary for Downey High School? And this shows that. You'll notice there's no break now in the Downey boundary when you get to the 99, Highway 99. And there's also small changes to Gregory High School, Davis High School, and Johansson High School. But even with this one, the geographical challenges for Downey still remain. You'll notice the great distance from South Modesto, which really is in many cases closer to Central Valley High School in Ceres than Downey High School. And when we talk about decreasing or declining enrollment, we believe that some families choose to leave us for the high school experience just because of the logistical challenges of either getting on a bus and going all that way, or trying for vehicular traffic from South Modesto to Downey High School. Davis boundary in this scenario would be completely east of 99. So if we went back to the original, you'll notice some of the green goes west of 99. And in this scenario, scenario 1, all of Davis now is east of Highway 99. And then also for Davis, you'll notice the kind of stair step at the top of Davis boundary, the initial, our existing boundary. What we found here is there's a large number of intra-district transfers because of the closeness, the proximity to Gregori High School, a newer high school. So many of the families in that stair step at the top of Davis already go to Gregori High School. And so under this scenario, we thought, well, let's just make it easier for them, and then we'll make that part of Gregori's boundary. Again, it's just a scenario. It's something that we considered. We put on paper to see, okay, first, what would a contiguous Downey boundary look like, and then how would it affect other areas. To create the contiguous boundary scenario for Downey, Johansen would also lose some neighborhoods that are just east of 99. So this is the current Johansen boundary, and then you'll see how it moves a little bit east in order to create that, that common boundary for Downey High School. So this is scenario 2 that the committee came up with. This provides, again, a contiguous boundary for Downey High School. It's much smaller in this particular scenario, and shrinks the geographical divide for many of our South Modesto residences. So those residences, neighborhoods would now, under this scenario, be Modesto High School instead of Downey High School. So it just makes that area a little smaller. However, due to the concentration of students from South Modesto neighborhoods, this scenario puts a larger than desired student population on Modesto High School. And so you can see by the numbers there what it would do, 2,800 if we implemented this particular scenario the first year, is what the projections show for Modesto High School. Davis High School in this scenario remains completely east of 99 as well, and regains the top portion with Gregori. So in order to do this and balance Davis, we had to put back to the existing boundary that we have for Davis High School. And Johansen returns a portion of the prior scenario that was lost east of Highway 99. But still, in order to keep the contiguous boundary for Downey, we had to take some of Johansen away and give it to Downey, even on that scenario. So this is the third scenario. And this scenario attempts to give our high schools more of a neighborhood boundary look and feel, but does include adjustments to Gregori, Davis, Downey, Johansen, and Modesto High Schools. Again, you see the challenge that we have of having only one high school west of Highway 99 to send the students on the west of 99 to, when it comes to trying to create what we think in this scenario is more of a symmetrical solution to our high school boundaries. Downey would become an east-west boundary. So if you look at Downey, Downey would cross 99 right there where Davis does initially, instead of a north-south boundary. And so it takes South Modesto out of the picture for Downey, and then slides Downey boundaries west, west of 99. Johansen returns to the 99 corridor in this case, but it also, though, it does lose some of the neighborhoods on the north, that would be the northwest portion of it, or the La Loma area, would be taken from Johansen and given to Downey. Johansen, I just talked about that. And Gregori, the big change here, if you go back, just look at Gregori, notice how Gregori falls south in this scenario. A much larger geographical expansion for Gregori to the south, but because of the small student population in this area, they can accommodate this larger geographical area without impacting the size of Gregori High School significantly. And it helps us balance out Modesto High School in order to get Modesto High School to numbers that we're more comfortable with. In all the scenarios, Bayer and Enox are not modified in any scenario. In scenario 1, 2, or 3, there's no changes to Bayer or Enox. And that's where, as I mentioned earlier, that's where a large amount of residential growth is going. And so we're comfortable with the students that are coming out of those residential neighborhoods and filling both Bayer and Enox high schools. And importantly, again, it was an important part of the goal, in this scenario, all of our schools are balanced with student numbers for future student populations. This is an anticipated timeline for the next committee review, or what we're calling a larger committee. The proposed boundary changes will be presented to the community at public meetings so that input can be received. And then the board will give final direction on the high school attendance boundary proposal. If there is one, we may end up saying there's nothing we can do because of our configuration, because of the location of our 7 high schools. There's really not much more we can do, but that's to be determined. And by the April 15th, 23 board meeting, we would ask the board to adopt any changes that the boundary committee recommends 1 year later for the 24-25 school year. And so why would we want 24-25 school year, not immediately? Is in the past, the district has traditionally offered parents the option to send students to their school of choice as boundary changes are implemented. The last time was in 2012. However, though, our current intra-district transfer process makes it easier now for families to choose and attend their school of choice as long as the student capacities allow. And in that case, their own transportation is provided. So the next steps would be to form a larger boundary committee. We're thinking maybe in the 20 to 25 individuals. The larger you get, the harder it is to coordinate times, meeting times, and to really get the group to function together. This would be made up of internal and external educational partners. We've already identified the 3 board members, Trustees Lopez, Trustee Irvin, and Trustee Mejia. We would want participation from all 7 of our high school principals, and then a community member or parent from those high school attendance boundaries. Labor partners, Modesto Teachers Association, California School Employees Association, and then key communicators to help us with the communication. If there is a change, if there is a suggested change that this committee comes up with, our key communicators would be part of that committee work and be able to help us communicate that out. Considerations that would be given to logistics of possible boundary adjustments over the year that we implement would be younger siblings. What are we doing for younger siblings not yet in high school? What are we doing for older siblings that now the boundary is changing? Grandfathering of our current 9th to 11th graders at their existing high school, those considerations would need to be given. And then anything else that the committee might come up with between now and then. With that, we'd like to welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zerly, for this report. I'm gonna take it out to the public. Is there anyone wishing to make a comment or? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Aaron Anguiano from the Latino Community Roundtable. I've been thinking about it for 20, 30 years about Modesto High and South Modesto, because my sister had to go to Sirius High instead of coming or going to Downey with the rest of the ghetto kids. But anyways, I think that you need to expand Modesto High and close that street. Where are we? You need to close the street. It's really dangerous. It's just open for an active shooter. It's really dangerous. And when I go through there, I go like, what would happen if somebody just came here and started shooting? You know, you have a security guard by the liquor store all the time, I know, but still, you know, it's a danger. And you don't have all these kids crossing every time there's a new period, crossing from one side of the street to the other. And maybe you should close it, you need to expand sideways somewhere, acquire property next, get rid of some of those houses, I don't know. But maybe if we expanded Modesto High, then you can take care of the south side, you know, but I don't know. It's like an impossible task for you to think about it. But I've been thinking about it for 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Debbie?
Debbie Martinez from La Raza Parents Union. So Tim, I get that it was way overdue. The last study was in 2012. But what I'm not understanding is the statistic goal is to provide safety. That should already be number one under their constitutional rights, safe, secure, and peaceful. So are we saying that our schools are overcrowded and that's why we need to expand because we have too many kids on campus? I'm not understanding. Downey, Downey's been my pet peeve for several years now. That's what took us to federal courts. Recently, we sat in that room, not today, but a few weeks back, and it was community again. And we asked on data, because it's 2,000 children on a 45-minute lunch, and we asked how much fighting has been reported. And I just want the board to know over 2,000 fights have been reported at Downey since this year, if I'm not correct or mistaken, but that's what was given at the report in that room is what I wrote down. So Downey is a mess. It's overpopulated, and our children are being incarcerated for all the wrong reasons. We need to clean up a lot of these schools. Like Aaron said, we need to close Modesto High. I know Turlock has streets that are closed around their vicinities of their high school. I know behind Modesto High, when one of your own vans hit our child, I had to call to City Council, and Madrigal and myself helped put together what we have in the back part of Tuolumne with all the flashing. Nobody did that until one of ours got hit. It's so sad that it takes one of our children to experience a tragedy before the needle gets moved in this district. Thank you.
Very much. Good evening.
Hi, I just wanted to do a quick, I teach at Modesto High School, Blake Matan. Just my only sort of observation is some of the numbers of projections look like they're really pushing up towards the limit of what's listed as the capacity for Modesto High. And I guess I just would encourage the committee to factor in that I don't know how capacity was calculated exactly, but there are classrooms being used for things like TOPS, G230, AVID. I'm a resource teacher, and so we have a really big classroom. So if capacity was calculated factoring, I just would hate to see some of those things potentially displaced because they're all very important programs to the school. And I've been at the school for 22 years, and there were times when we were so heavily impacted. We had teachers sharing, like using rooms during preps and things like that. And we get by and things like that. And we always, rise up and do what we can to serve the population. But I just would, I guess, not just use the capacity figure as a without looking at it critically and looking at how all the classrooms are being used, because I think we're pretty well using pretty much all of our capacity in a way right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other member of community wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for any questions or comments. I'll start off with Trustee Maestas.
Thank you. So I have some questions here on the slide that says boundary study goals. Review equity and access to transportation and other services. What are those other services that were considered? Because we talked a lot about transportation, but what are those other services?
I believe that was access to really any services, educational opportunity at that school, whether it could be extracurricular, co-curricular. When you have that divide, geographical divide, it was believed that they don't have the same access to whatever services are provided at that school because of either the lack of vehicular ability to get there or lack of bus transportation. So it could impact any number of things that going on at that school that the neighborhoods around Enoch's High School have a much greater access to their school than South Modesto and Downey High School.
Yeah. I'm a little concerned about the population and the capacities. With some of these, I know it has to be done. When you calculated the projected attendance for the areas, I'm looking specifically at the proposed 2 and 3, well, specifically at 3, because I think that one makes the most sense to me. You know, most of them fall in line with their capacities, except for Modesto High School. And Mohi looks like it has a capacity of, it's about 2,600. The projected, are those the projected, because I see a significant difference between the 2974 and the 2765. Are those projected, the 2025s, are those projected based on the boundary changing, and that's why you see that difference there? Or, specifically for Mohi, are those projected based on population, or do inter-district, because I know we have a lot of inter-district transfers that go to Modesto High School, are those also included in the projection?
Yeah, it's great questions. There's a lot of moving parts that go into this. So as we move a neighborhood either in or out of the boundary, then those plots, those students that are plotted within that boundary get added to that school. There's really isn't a correlation. The hard part of here is there's not really a correlation to our existing student enrollment because there's other factors involved, the ins and outs in that. So what this does is it takes a look at all of the students that reside in the county, either for Modesto High School, it doesn't, well, there could be some Hart Ransom students in there, but it would be mostly predominantly Modesto City Elementary School students. So we take all of our students in TK through 12th grade that are within that boundary, homes within that boundary. They may or may not go there, but that's how we determine the student numbers for each one of those. So as we move it, as we pull a neighborhood out, it either adds or subtracts from that number. We do know our IDTs. We know intras and inters. We know historical patterns for that. And we do know that Modesto High School has a large number of intra-district transfers and even inter-district transfers for the IB program. But really, this looks at residential houses within that boundary and where the students currently reside within that boundary.
Do we have any idea of the development that we might be looking at in the next year or two? I know things are slowing down. Are developers continuing to look at East Modesto, or are there other places that we hadn't thought about where developers are looking at?
Yeah, the majority of our growth is Northeast Modesto, and that's now and in the future. There is some in the Davis High School area that's recently the area around Vintage Fair Mall. That's not our elementary students, but it is Davis High School currently. But the majority of residential housing development growth is accounted for. We know what's planned. We know what's been approved. So that is in here. And as a member on that committee, when we dive down into the details, you'll see plotted on these maps where the future housing developments are. So we go out, and as the housing market goes, I mean, they've got some planned developments out for the next 7, 8, 9 years. Now, where the economy sees that to fruition, that's to be determined because, as you mentioned, the housing market has stalled a little bit. But those are all accounted for in this too, but especially in Bayer and Enoch's, small amount in Grigori.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee West?
Thank you for this conversation today. I just had one question. The committee that you had and the people that you've listed, going back to that, we have high school community / parent representation, 7 members. And obviously, I think some of the most important key players that are going to have questions about this and want input are our parents. They're the ones that are going to be most effective. I mean, our students will, but the parents are the ones that I think we really need to get input. So when we have 7, say, parent community members on this committee, how can we be assured that we're getting input from all the parents who are going to be affected by this? How are we planning to get input from all of our parents?
There will be an opportunity to have parent meetings at each one of our high schools. We even Beyer and Enox. I mean, none of the scenarios impact Beyer or Enox, but just like we did with Measure L, we would want to go to each of our high school communities to seek that input. We don't know everything. We don't. This is the first attempt to come up with some scenarios to help mitigate the Downey non-contiguous boundary, but that's just a starting point. So we will definitely seek parent input and see what they have to say before it comes back to the board for a recommendation.
And I would recommend, along with parent meetings, for some parents who can't get out to meetings, using a variety of different methods of getting feedback from parents would be beneficial. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Irvin?
Are the capacities on there the current capacities of the schools, or those are just the capacities in general?
Those are current capacities that we provided. Now, as we heard from the teacher at Modesto High School, this takes into consideration anything that could be a classroom. I mean, and again, it's just it's a number. So if we operated all of our buildings as classroom buildings, this is what we could accommodate. Now we would lose those areas for whatever they're currently being utilized for. But this would be based on our existing square footage, what our student capacities could handle.
Okay, the last thing, my name's spelled wrong on next steps.
Thank you. Student Rep Patel?
Just a question regarding capacity as well. I saw that Enox's capacity is 2,430, but on the projected proposed scenario, it's 1,964 for 2023. Has there been any thoughts on the committee to expand the boundaries for Enox since its capacity is higher than some of the other schools?
No, because any future new homes are in that area that we have to account for that. But that would be something for the larger committee to take a look at. But we did not, because there are homes being built right now, and there's many more homes in the planned future that could drive up the student count in those areas.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice President Brown?
Yes, I know that anytime we talk about boundaries, this touches on sensitive measures for a lot of people. And it's a very difficult decision. But as I'm looking at current numbers coming in on the bond, and the fact that, we may very well have the opportunity to make significant changes for all of our high schools. And to me, this is two things coming together. This is an opportunity for us to direct our bond spending according to where we have the greatest need. And I think it needs to tie very closely together with our decisions on the boundaries. And, some of the issues that we know we have at Modesto High School, we've looked at scenarios, and the bond money would give us possibilities to make some great improvements to that campus. And I have to speak from hope. It appears that we're moving the direction that will allow us to be making those decisions. And I see great opportunity. I see a lot of hope. And over the next few weeks, we're going to know just where we stand and where the opportunity is to spend. And it looks like we're going to be able to make the improvements that we need to be able to make changes effective, always with the benefit of our students. And as Trustee West mentioned, hoping that we can reach to the parents. I would request that we not only have meetings at our high schools, but since our parents in South Modesto are so directly affected by any change that we make with the boundaries, I would request that we have a parent meeting at either Hanshaw or one of the elementary schools in South Modesto, in addition to the high school campuses, so that we pick up the opportunity to address those families that are most directly affected by the transportation issues and by the distance issues that they're having to deal with right now. So once again, thank you to those that have really put the time and effort into making these critical considerations. And thank you for what is coming and the discussion that will happen within the community that will allow us as a board to make this important decision and do it in the benefit of everyone that will be affected. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Maestas?
Yeah, I wanted to add on a couple things. One, I wonder if we can get our parent ambassadors involved in this group for the areas that they represent. And then that way they can also be the ones to help relay the information and communicate to the rest of the parent population, and then get the feedback from those parents as well. So that we don't have just one representative from each high school parent, but we have those that represent a bunch of other parents involved in that discussion. So I wonder if we can utilize those. And the second thing, this reminds me of, that transportation thing reminds me of why it's so important to do this change now with the school later start time. We have yet to see how that affects our students. But we do know one thing is that students that are traveling on buses a long period of time in the morning, they don't get any of the benefits of that later start time if there are truly those benefits for students kind of sleeping in and getting more rest. So, and who are the ones that really falls upon? That's those kids in South Modesto, or I think it's actually Downey that end up having to wait for a long time for buses. Am I right about that? So having these changes will also help that situation where we get kids that haven't been able to get the benefit from the later start time, but to now have the benefits. So I just wanted to add that in there. So that's it.
Thank you very much. Trustee Marks?
Yeah, just along the lines of the transportation, ensuring that, I know I've talked about this before, but how we made them walk a lot further, up to 2 miles to school, that when we do these boundaries, I want to ensure that we get the buses so that they don't have to walk as far, maybe a mile or less, because that's what it used to be, and so that we have the transportation for those families, especially the ones who don't have a way to drive their children to school, and that impacts a lot of our students. So that was mine, but I love the dialogue and hearing all the ideas, and wow, this is going to be exciting when we go to this, and I know it's challenging because it is, as Trustee Brown said, very strong feelings about changing boundaries. So I'm glad we're working towards that now, and at least having the dialogue now so we can iron out anything that we think might be a potential struggle for the community. So thanks, this will be interesting.
Yeah, if I may add, Trustee Marks, you'll be, and probably the rest of the trustees will be happy to know, we are in the middle of that study right now. We're reviewing our, what we call our walk radiuses which is currently 3 miles at the high school, 2 miles at the junior high, and 1 mile at elementary. And we're looking at how can we improve our efficiency, not only our efficiency, but the service to our families by going inside those radiuses and adding service where otherwise it's not there. So that'll be coming soon. We're in the middle of that study. And to Trustee Maestas' point, Downey gets the most buses in and out of a high school. For high school students, it's about 10 that come from South Modesto to Downey and then back at the end of the day. So those are all things being considered.
Thank you very much. I did have a couple questions. So first of all, I know that Hart Ransom High is a high school, and I don't know, do we have any projections on what they're hoping to expand or grow? Or what's their population size as it is?
It's my understanding, and I may defer to my colleagues, that Hart Ransom only operates a charter school, high school, and it's a small number of, most of our students that go to Hart Ransom are in the TK8 grade level, and they come back to us for the comprehensive high school experience. We can get you those numbers, but Hart Ransom operates just a small charter high school out there, and not a comprehensive high school setting.
Got it. Yeah, I wanted to see what was their projection looking like in terms of their growth, because I think it will play key into when we're looking at numbers, how big or small. But the other question I had was around in our existing boundaries. Do we know what the population size of our student is that coming from the south side Modesto for Downey High?
We do.
Yeah. So
We do.
what's the average going of new freshmen going over to, or actually no, the whole size, because from 9 to 12.
Okay, we can get you that. For this particular presentation, we didn't get that deep into the data. But the next committee, they will see, it's amazing. We plot all of our students in the different boundaries, and so we can give you and pinpoint the number of students, where they're coming from, what grade level. But we can also provide that to the board if requested.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciated that. I was gonna say that, yes, I would agree with Trustee West and a couple other board members mentioned about the importance of input from parents. I'm gonna be happily joining the boundary committee, so one of the things that I will make a recommendation of is that we actually put a number, right? I know that it's, a lot of times we're like, okay, we're gonna go to each of the high schools, or I love going to Hanshaw, going to some of the elementaries, but I think that we need to have quality feedback and comments from our community, and we have to, have a goal for ourselves. Okay, we want 20% of our parents to provide some sort of input into this boundary, because as Mr. Anguiano said, 20, 30 years people have been thinking about this process, or even more. We've had one maybe about 10 years ago, but it wasn't really addressing Modesto High or Johansson or Downey. So and as mentioned before, it's going to be a struggle for some folks, right? I know for the south side, Downey runs big, right? I know west side Modesto High. I know that, but I think also people understand the importance of making sure that our students are, taken care of, that they're, addressing some of those needs, that because of certain things that we have to adjust to, that might look differently, right? So it's going to be a big commitment from our community as a whole. So we want to make sure that we walk alongside them, and when we make these decisions, that we know that we have all the input or a good support and input from our parents and from community. So I'll be making the recommendation in committee around, looking at what is proper feedback and commitment and comments look like. And with that,
one good thing about that is we've given ourselves a year and a half to fully implement this. So what you saw on the timeline is just, that definitely is just a draft. We can take as long as we need to make sure
Yeah.
all the parents get heard and provided input. So that's the
Definitely.
beauty of having a year and a half to implement this.
That definitely is really good. And, oh, Trustee Meneses?
Yeah, I got one more thing. I just thought of it. I think it's really good, so that's why I'm gonna say it. I know it's my third time talking. When you said key communicators, who did you mean by that, by key communicators?
I would, Dr. Noguchi, our superintendent, has a group of key communicators, and I don't know specifically who they are. I know they're influential members in the community that represent various groups or businesses that, the mayor,
Okay,
an example.
that was my main
So,
question because I went into Central Valley High School in Ceres today, and the traffic is like unreal. Like you have to, if you're not there half an hour early, you're not gonna make it to school on time. And with some of these changes, I know Grigori has some, like there's only one in and one out, I think, at Grigori. So if you're increasing the size, we're gonna be changing traffic things, and that's gonna be a struggle. So I think someone from city council, mayor, somebody there that can help us in those ways, because it's gonna be coming, and we wanna make sure that we're ready for the traffic changes that might occur by that. So that was just because I was stuck in traffic this morning, so.
Thank you, Trustee Maestas. Yeah, as I was saying, yeah, so I really appreciate it, and you're right, we have plenty of time to do this, and like I said, we really want input, so when these decisions are made, they're gonna end up being hard decisions anyways, but we hope that we're very informed from our community. With that, this was only a report, so we'll be moving on to B4, which is report on update to MCS Career and Technical Education Pathways. Ms. Parkes.
Is this on? Yes, it is. Okay. Good evening, President Lopez, trustees, Dr. Noguchi, and cabinet. My name is Rachel Barkis, and I'm the Senior Director of Educational Options, and it's my pleasure to present to you a report on our career technical education pathways. So the purpose of the presentation is to give an overview of the progress that we've made over the last 3 years within our CTE programs, and then to outline our next steps. Our district goal alignment is Goal 1, increase academic achievement and ensure equitable access to enable all students to attain college and career readiness. Okay, so I did want to lay a foundation of CTE terminology. As we know with education, acronyms are one of our favorite things. And so I wanted to go ahead and just share career technical education is going to be referred to as CTE, and it has to do with the pathways and industry sectors that we have within our schools. In industry sector, the state of California has recognized 15 different industry sectors that identify different areas of business and different areas of career technical education. Pathways. A pathway is basically a sequence of study. It's a 3-year sequence, an intro class, a concentrator class, and a capstone class. And so in order to be considered a pathway, students must complete 2 to 3 of those years in that sequence. And so then there it is, intro, concentrator, capstone. And then work-based learning, there's a variety of definitions that fall under work-based learning, internships, paid internships, job shadowing, pre-apprenticeships. So it encompasses a lot of different opportunities for students. Okay, so this chart here it gives you just a side-by-side look at where we've come since 2019-20 school year. We've increased our teaching staff. One of the highlights here, I think, is in 1920, we only had 12 of our CTE courses that were A to G approved. During the last few years, we now have 95 A to G approved courses. We only have 1 course that has not been approved yet, and that's because we haven't had it updated and submitted yet, and that's Culinary Arts 3. So we're working on that one this year. We've gone from having 33 pathways to 67 pathways. Another impressive point is that we had 16 STEM and STEAM teachers. We now have 27. So we're providing more opportunities in the areas of STEAM and STEM. We have a program at every single one of our sites within the CTE world. We also have an increase of students that are accessing the CTE programs. Some of the pathway additions over the last few years, one being at Elliott. Elliott did not have any CTE programs up until 2 years ago, and since then we've added 3 different pathways: a health careers, construction, and arts, media, and entertainment. Bayer, we've added the JROTC program. Davis High School, we've added culinary arts, a cybersecurity class, and professional theater. In addition, we're piloting a career exploration course that includes a wheel of the pathways that are offered at Davis. That was something that came out of our committee a few years ago, asking for career exploration opportunities. And at Downey, we have performing arts, business employment opportunities, child development, arts, media, and entertainment. Now, I do want to point out that these are pathways that have been added. So we have other pathways at these schools. These are just the additions that we've made. At Enox High School, we have cybersecurity and computer science. There's now a total, well, we've added 10 sections. We've added 2 teachers over the last few years to the computer science programming. At Grigori, we've added medical science and professional theater. Johansson, construction and ag food science. We added a 4th ag teacher, and we started a farm to fork program, sustainability. And at Modesto High, we've added a child development program and an ag manufacturing program, which included the addition of a 3rd ag teacher at Modesto High. Enrollment has increased over the years pretty drastically. I mean, with the addition of all these different courses and pathways and teachers, it's giving more opportunities to students. So just in the 21-22 to 22-23 school year, we've had a 12% increase in our CTE student enrollment. Pathway completions, we've had a 20% increase over the last 2 years. We continue to work with our counselors on identifying ways to get our students increasing their pathway completion. CTE work-based learning, we have had a bit of a decrease on this, not an excuse, but a reality is COVID and the ability for our students to go out into the workforce and to have those experiences. So this year we're ramping that back up and providing more opportunities for students for work-based learning. We've also increased our certifications. We had a focus on our capstone courses offering some sort of a certification. The 8 certifications that are listed up here, it's not a comprehensive list by any means. There's a wide variety of opportunities for our students to have industry recognized certifications. I think some of the highlights, a drone certification, CompTIA series through our computer science programs, web design, Adobe, another software platform, and then one that I just thought was kind of interesting is dog and cat CPR. So I thought I'd throw that up there for you. I did want to share, we have a number of different funding sources that are specific to CTE. These are all grants that my office works on renewing every year, and we have the oversight over these funds. We have Perkins at about $500,000. We have a CTE Education Incentive Grant, the CTIG grant, and we have applied for that again. We're waiting the outcome for this next cycle. We had a CTIG facilities grant. CTIG doesn't allow for building. It's just to enhance and expand programs. And so there was a separate grant that we applied for to improve our facilities. And then we have our Strong Workforce Grant, which funds our career navigators, who are a direct link for our students to industry and to dual enrollment opportunities. Over the last couple years, it's been my goal to increase our partnerships and our face in the community. It's not a comprehensive list, but it does involve the majority of the committees that I'm a part of, that they can act as an advisory to us and me to them. But there's, like I said, there's a list. The newest one that I just joined is a career development committee that is part of workforce development. And so I can hear from Workforce Development Board on what we need to do education-wise. Some next steps, we are looking at adding a green energy pathway at Grigori High School. The course outlines have been approved already. We're looking at the curriculum, where it could be located, those types of things. We want to continue to expand and enhance our STEAM and STEM programming. I mean, we've done a really good job over the last couple of years, but we do see a need to continue expanding those opportunities. Also, the career guidance class has proven to be pretty successful at Davis High School. I'm anxious to get student feedback as to how that's informed them for their future, because it is just freshmen that are in that class this year. And then marketing, campaigning, we have publications that we're working on that we've developed. Our webpage is completely redone. So I would encourage you to take a look at the CTE webpage. We do have an 8th grade showcase that will be happening on January 19th, and you all will be receiving an invitation to that. That is in partnership with our Chamber of Commerce Business and Education Committee. All 8th graders will be attending that and get to see all of our CTE programs and students. Evening with Industry, we'll be having another one of those in the spring. We have several career fairs and just promotional type events at the different schools. Junior highs have recently been having those. And then we are planning a JROTC specific program night to highlight JROTC at Byer High School, probably February-ish. In addition, our middle schools, we are starting CTE courses at the middle schools, and we're working with the site administration and the current teachers to align those programs with their feeder schools. So that way they'll get some of the basic skills while they're in junior high and then be able to go into high school and continue to enhance those skills. And then continue to evaluate transportation and site boundaries. Pretty fitting based on the previous presentation, to support some of our different academies in public safety at Davis High School. And that concludes my update. I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Farkas. I'll go out to community first, public.
Debbie Martinez, We Are La Raza, parents, I'll say it again, parents. I'll say it one more time, Parents Union. If you guys really want parents, I don't know quite yet what your ambassadors do here, but trust me, I had 9 of them on the other side of that wall today, voicing concerns, complaining, south side, west side. I got the parents. I gave you flyers. Ceres has to change their venue. If you look at their address, Ceres Community Center. We were able to pull in 150 parents in October for their first meeting. Thank you. The other day I had parents phone banking at Ceres. I brag about Ceres because Ceres actually does their job. Here, you guys just sit and do this for the last 10 years that I've been trying to help fix things. I remember back in the days when I used to be on committees. I don't get that no more here. Why? Because I put everybody in federal courts. I proved racism, bias, lack of empathy, lack of compassion. Dr. O just left giving another report. Parents are left at the curbside. So my recommendation, Mr. Lopez, why don't you pick me for that committee? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I second that. I'm Aaron Anguiano from the Latino Community Roundtable. I'm very pleased with this career technical education, and I think it's one of the doings of our superintendent in the last 3-4 years. And she's done a lot of work, including distance learning. It was amazing because my children were there, and I used to listen to the teachers, and it was good. So I think we're doing the right thing here. I still, my grudge is grading. Your grading policy needs to be updated. And I want to be here when it's upgraded. They're grading like 100 years ago when we sent our kids, okay, Mr. Lopez, you're going to teach my son to speak nicely and have manners and read and write and basic math. And if you knew how to read, write, and do basic math, I remember my grandpa used to call me to to write the promissory notes when he lent money, because he couldn't really write. He just had to do an X. So I think we're doing a good job, and thank you. And don't leave the superintendent to do everything. I noticed this board is kind of reactive. It needs to be more proactive, because it's not the superintendent's job to run the district, it's you guys. You guys got to do it. Thank you.
Very much. Any other member from the public wishing to comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board, and I had, for any questions or comments, I'll start with Trustee Maestas. Sorry, I just accidentally cleared Maestas, so I'll have him start, and then I'll go to Trustee Urban.
Yeah, right. He's like, we better have him start so he gets everything out before he. I think I put it in a bunch of times.
You had requested, right, for this topic?
I was going to, so I'll just go, I have one question.
All right.
Honestly. So I have one question. On the CTE pathway completion, by the way, I'm impressed with all of the CTE stuff. Especially the computer science stuff at Enox is amazing. What those numbers there on completion are, do you have percentage, or can we get the percentage of completion? So I see it's 325, I just don't know, what is that percent? And to see the percent increase of the percentages. And then I also wonder why students are not completing those pathways. Are there specific reasons why they don't, either they get into it and it's too hard, or they don't like it, or whatever, but I'd be interested in knowing what those reasons are. And that, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm so impressed with all the CTE stuff, and the biggest thing I'm impressed in is the fact that most, if not all, are A through G approved. Like, that's huge, because that gives the students the option. Like, it prepares them for careers. But then it gives them the option if they decide, yeah, you know, I do want to go to college. Then they're ready to go. We haven't set them behind. So I think that's amazing. So thank you for that report.
Thank you very much. Trustee Irvin?
Yes, again, I am reiterate everybody, Mr. Aguiaro and Trustee Maestas, and yeah, our CTE is definitely on point. I wanted to ask about solar. Is that kind of lumped in with construction, or, you know, I know we're on this big green energy and reducing the carbon footprint. I know I've mentioned a couple of times solar and wind, and as some options as well as the cybersecurity. I noticed that in this cybersecurity wasn't listed in the certifications. Where were we at? As part of the certifications, because there are cybersecurity certifications that students, by the time they graduate, if they decided to go to a career, they can, 18, 19 years old, start off making $50,000, $55,000 a year, depending on what level of security certificate they have. And so I wanted to know, do we have a pathway for those cybersecurity certificates? And then I see the drone. That's another one that's probably going to become popular there as well. So those are the two questions that I had.
So the solar and wind, that's part of the green energy pathway. That's actually, those are two of the major units for that particular course that we're looking at implementing at Grigori. But we also have Project Lead the Way, which incorporates engineering, and there are some different components of utilities and energy through the engineering pathways. And then within our Paxton Patterson curriculum, there is, which is our construction curriculum, there is some different components of like installation and those sorts of things that translate to solar panel installation.
Okay. Does that include electrical, because that, that's a
Yes.
big part of solar.
Yes.
A lot of times they got the installation part, but they have to bring somebody in to do the electrical part. So it'd be nice if they're well-rounded and can do the electrical and the solar installation. And the battery, working with batteries is, the different types of batteries as backup batteries as well. So again, thank you for this excellent report. Yeah, our students have options and opportunities when it comes to CTE.
To speak to the cybersecurity certifications, the CompTIA, that's one that I did list on here. That is one of the certifications that they get through the cybersecurity program. But they currently have, I want to say 4 or 5 different ones that they end up with when they complete the pathway at Knox High School. 4 or
Okay.
5 different. Mhm.
And are we linked with some possible leads in terms of maybe jobs that they could probably look into, with those certifications after they graduate, sort of that kind of identify potential employers, local or
Currently, our cybersecurity, they've been a pilot for us for internships. And so a number of the students actually work with our tech department here within Modesto City. So we're growing our own. We also have students that are working with Sylvan Unified School District within our cybersecurity program. And we have one intern that has a paid internship with Save Mart doing cybersecurity for them locally.
Thank you.
Coding all day, I'm imagining. Thank you very much. We'll have Trustee Marks.
This is such a great report. This just lifts me up every time I hear what we're doing and where we've come from and how we're making education so relevant for the future and for where students want to go, what they want to do, their skills and abilities that we're giving them at school before they even graduate. So this is so awesome. Anyway, and I love seeing that we have STAN 2030 as a partnership because I know they've been working with the business community to try to ensure that the education is also following where the business is going. So that's really exciting, and doing I think they've been doing data testing and trying to find out what's the future going to look like and what are the jobs that need to be there. So I'm so happy that we're a part of that, so we can at least follow with that. And then I had a couple of other just super excited about the aligning with the middle schools, because I think that's something when I go out to the high schools, some of the teachers and parents are saying, hey, how are we working with the other feeder districts? And I know we are, but just to see that we're doing an 8th grade night, that's awesome too, so those parents can see, wow, my kid could get into this, whatever that industry is. And then I really like that we're doing the healthcare work group, because that one, I think right now, as I look at the needs of the future in healthcare, that's going to be a really big one coming up. And so I'm thrilled that we're going to be part of that and getting that new workforce going on. So I didn't really have any questions, but I'm super excited about this, and I appreciate my colleagues too and their comments and all the new things that are coming on with cyber safety, cyber safety, sorry, security. So that's awesome, and the drones and the green. So that's great. So thank you.
Trustee Mejia.
Yeah, also, I wanted to say a bunch of the things that have been said before, especially the A through G and all that. I think I've asked it a couple times. I just want to know, are we thinking of expanding to other schools? I know, the cybersecurity, Modesto High. Are we exploring possibilities, also offering those courses? I know teachers might be the issue about having courses, because we're expanding those, but we're also, how about offering opportunities to some of so those will be my questions. I know we're probably thinking about it, but I also just want to put on the radar, if we can, as we expand into other schools, especially the schools that don't have those, that could potentially, be great to attract also students that might be going to others further south districts and to some of our schools here. So that was overall great. I'm super excited. I'm just always pushing, trying to get it into some of the other schools, especially the Modesto High, down in some of the other campuses. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Trustee West.
Actually, I want to add something really quick to that. So in the spirit of John Walker, who always talked about computer science and the need for computer science across the district. Since that time, which was 3 or 4 years ago, we do have computer science in all of our high schools now, where that wasn't the case before. It was primarily at Gregorian, I believe Enoch's, if I'm correct. So students do have access to computer science at all the high schools. In addition, something that Ms. Barkas didn't pinpoint, that some of the pathways, and she would know which ones these are, like where it's arts, media, and entertainment. While that sounds like that's a visual performing arts course, there's actually a component of technology in there, and you're going to see coming up in the next couple board meetings, actually recognition for short films. So kids actually learning how to do animation and short films and engaging with that technology. So while it might not say cybersecurity per se, there is the technical skills that we know that all of our kids are going to need embedded in some of those pathways. So I just wanted to add that.
Very much. Trustee West.
I wanted to thank you for this beautiful, beautiful example of catalog. I looked through this and I don't know who worked on this, but it's a very, very professional job. I loved the back of it where the students can fill out their own career kind of plan and exploration. And so my question is, the career guidance course that you said is being offered, how many schools have that, or how many students have the opportunity to take that course? Is it an elective?
It is an elective right now. It's only at Davis High School. We started at Davis this year. We're using the Get Focused, Stay Focused curriculum, which is what Turlock also uses. And they have it articulated with MJC, so it gives them dual enrollment as well. They take that the first semester, and then the second semester is the wheel, where our other teachers are coming in and actually doing a lesson with the students prior to balloting so they can be informed in their decision making.
I would love, I mean, you know, in an ideal world, I would love to see a mandatory course. I know we can't do that, but for every student to begin exploring what they want to do, because kids from 9th grade to 12th grade, oh my gosh, they change so much. And so I wish that we could at least offer it to more students if we can't require it. And here's what I'm hearing from parents over and over again, which would kind of fit in that. And I don't know if this is anything we could ever do, but having a component of life skills. I mean, we used to call it balancing a checkbook. Nobody does that anymore. But, you know, just budgeting and planning and those kinds of things, because what I'm hearing from the parents is that their kids are graduating from high school and they have no idea how to do any of that, how to take care of themselves once they fly that nest. So I just wish we could kind of combine all of that. Just a thought.
Thank you very much. Student Rep Patel.
Senior Director Barkas has really championed the work of CTE and career interest inventories and the stuff to gather some of the information that you talked about. So we are in the process with Russ Selkin on developing a tool that will be used to be able to provide career interest inventories to get an idea of what kids' interests are. Then they develop their plan to go through high school and take coursework that would be associated with their career interest.
Very much.
My questions kind of piggyback off of what some of the other board members have said, but I love the myriad of activities and CTE activities that there are on this list. I wish I was in some of them. My question is, currently, since certain courses or pathways are offered at only particular school sites, are there any ways currently where students at one site can access those courses if they're not available at their current high school?
So currently, since we're a high school of choice, students can choose to go to that high school where the program is offered. So they could do an interdistrict transfer.
Okay, so there's no way that they can access those programs if they're not offered at their school, right?
We're reviewing all of that right now, just trying to figure out what that looks like from a logistical perspective. Especially, you know, we've had so much change in the system with the bell schedules changing, the longer day. So that's another component that we continue to analyze and review to see what we can do there.
Okay, and then kind of going back off of what Trustee West had said about the balancing the checkbook, I've been kind of advocating for financial literacy in our graduation committee. And so a lot of times students go out and with the degrees that they're obtaining in the CTE that you stated and with the business and finances courses, I was just wondering if financial literacy is offered through this business and finance course or if it's offered if they get their certificate, just to be able to know how to manage their money once they start making it, if that's right after high school.
So that coursework does involve financial literacy. As far as a certification, they don't get like a financial literacy certification, but at least they get the skills and the knowledge base for when they do graduate.
Okay, and then, sorry, my final question is, I know junior highs and high schools have these CTE programs. Are there any ways, I know CTE can probably be a little bit too advanced for elementary school students, but are there any programs embedded in elementary school students that can expose them to these different career paths right now?
So currently, there's some Project Lead the Way schools, Beard and Tuolumne, both incorporate Project Lead the Way, which is a CTE type course, introducing them to different STEAM and STEM opportunities. So there are ways that we can incorporate a few things at the elementary level to plant the seed to get them ready for when they go into junior high and high school.
Okay, and then is that something that can be developed into all of the elementary schools, that they can get an idea of what they want to do or kind of see where their interests are at an early age?
So, well, currently, supplement in the LCAT plan, there is a component for career days for the different schools. And so I used to be an elementary principal, and we would have different, an assembly where we would have different individuals come in and we'd read career books and do that sort of thing. So there is an element of that. I don't know how structured we would say it is, but there is an element of career exploration at the elementary schools. 2 years ago, we did develop a 6th grade tool called Inspire Youth Inspire Dreams that our 6th grade, all of our computer literacy teachers did with our 6th graders, and it was a week-long career exploration activity.
All right, thank you.
So another piece to that is all of our elementary students have access to computer science through during the week. So all of our kids, all the students have access to that. In addition, our after-school programming, there's a number of schools that have, we call them clubs. So you've got robotics, or you've got Legos, and you've got these different components that kids can engage in. It's not necessarily a CTE course, but it's the STEM-related experiences they have. And we've tried to get that across the district. I don't know if it is at every school site, but I know it is at a large number school sites. Because really what I'm hearing you say is, are we exposing our children, our young children, to technical skills relative to computer science and such? And I can say yes, all our elementary school kids have access to that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Whip Brown.
Vice President Brown?
Yes, I want to go back to the A through G just briefly. As we all know, the cost of college education is increasing rapidly, and it's difficult for kids to be able to get through college in 4 years. And I appreciate the fact that through our CTE programs, they're learning life skills that will allow them to take jobs that will provide meaningful employment during their college career and lead to the careers and help them into good college degree programs related to the CTE pathways that they're involved in. So thank you for making sure that they do get the credit so that that can be applied to their college preparation. Another thing that I want to point out, I get especially excited when you talk about the grant monies that you've been able to raise, and just want to remind the public how much improvement we have seen at our high school campuses with regard to the CTE programming. That building that we were able to dedicate recently at Davis High School for our health academies came through grants through the CTE program. And we've seen that multiple places with our ag programs and the improvements that we've been able to make. As everybody knows, I participate on the construction committee, and Rachel's presentation always is the first one made. So it's like she's center stage with construction opportunities that are coming to the district. And I've got a question for you, Rachel. As we move into bond spending, you hear me speaking hope all through the meeting. How can we supplement what we're able to do with our bond spending with continued grants for CTE construction.
I think that once we get that bond measure committee in place, then we can have those conversations and figure out what the master plan is to spend these dollars and leverage them the best that we can with the different funding sources.
Because your grants have been that leveraging point for us so far. And I just hope that we can continue to open doors with those grant monies and do even more with what we hope to improve our campuses. And then I have one more thing. The economic downturn is creating some opportunities that I think our district really needs to capitalize on. A lot of the tech companies are laying off employees. And I think now is a time for us to really heavily accrue to support our computer science and technical training programs with industry professionals who may be looking for other work right now. So just put that little bug in the air so that we can make sure that we capitalize on that opportunity.
Thank you very much. I had an additional question from Trustee Irvin.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, because student trustee Dara mentioned about, is there other ways for students to get access that go to different campuses? And I was kind of thinking about cybersecurity, since a lot of times those are, done online or via Zoom. Couldn't some of the certifications and things like that, or access to cybersecurity certifications or any other certifications be accessed by students via Teams, Zoom, or that way, in order to eliminate not being able to get to the campus? And I just want to add one other thing. Like my son, who's a graduate of Downey, there was nothing for him back then, anywhere cybersecurity, internet, which that was something he was into. I had to take him to the Bay Area. I had to, I bought a computer for him to put together. He actually built the computer back then in high school. And so he's a cybersecurity engineer, and he just got promoted to lead cyber with AWS, which Amazon is the #1 cybersecurity provider in the world. And so when I was telling him that we were starting cybersecurity, he was very, very happy, but he said, they're about 10, 12 years too late for me. But I say that to say that, we're moving in the right direction. And so I just wanted to point that out with the Zoom, and if there's access, if we can kind of get students engaged in some of these CTE processes through those means, if available.
Definitely something to consider.
Thank you very much. Vice President Brown, you didn't have another question, right? I still see your hand up, so.
I thought I was taking it down when I put it back up, sorry.
Okay, good. Well, I don't have much more to add, everything's been asked, and a lot of great, I feel the same way, a lot of great work, a lot of great offerings. I know that the one that caught my eye, as you mentioned, was the one CPR for pets, right? I know a lot of our adult population will want to have that handy. So great work, and I'm looking forward to see how we continue to grow and add cool courses that are going to do a lot of good for our students. And then you're going to be staying up here because we'll be moving on to our B5, which is the report on Stanislaus County Civil Grand Jury Report, case number 2215GJ, regarding career and technical education programs for at-risk students. Again, this is Ms. Barkis.
Okay, so today, the purpose of this presentation is to report to the board the findings and recommendations of the Stanislaus County Civil Grand Jury Report regarding career and technical education programs for English learners and continuation high school students specifically. So we do have some goal alignment here. First of all, ensure every student has a guaranteed instructional program, not by chance, but by design as outlined in the instructional core. And then increase the number of students being identified as prepared in the college career indicators as outlined by the California State Dashboard. Okay, so to give you a little bit of background here, the focus of this report was on access, equity, participation, and achievement in CTE programs specific to English learners and continuation high school students. This was a review of all Stanislaus County career technical programming, not just Modesto City Schools. The request first went to the County Office of Education and then was trickled down to the different districts. I did want to define some terms when we talk about access, equity, participation, and achievement. That can mean a lot of different things to different people, but for the purpose of today and this particular report, access occurs when classes are offered. Equity occurs when all students have the ability to enroll in the classes as well as the support to be successful. Participation occurs when students believe there is value in the classes and enroll in those classes. And achievement occurs when students complete the course of study, gaining skills that enable them to find productive employment. As I shared, this was a comprehensive review of all high schools in Stanislaus County. We did receive this request. We knew it was coming down the pike. I had talked to a contact at Stanislaus County last December, and she said it was going to be coming down through email. And so in January, we had, there was requests for data pertaining to English learners and continuation high school students specific to CTE programming. They referred to the California Dashboard and CalPADS from the 2018-19 school year, so the year prior to COVID. And then they found, the grand jury found that there was a wide discrepancy from district to district and site to site. And again, this is districts from all over Stanislaus County, Patterson, Ceres, Turlock, Waterford, so every single district in our entire county. And of course, we're the largest, so just to keep in mind. So it was our responsibility to respond to the findings, and we had specific ways in which we needed to respond. They had 14 different findings related to access, equity, participation, and achievement, and we had to agree with the findings in the report or disagree partially or wholly with, or in whole with the findings, and then provide an explanation as to why we felt the way we did. So we did agree that CTE offerings vary from district to district. We, of course, as I shared, have a robust list of opportunities. That's not the case for every high school or for every district across our county, but we do have courses covering 13 of the 15 industry sectors. One of the statements was that continuation high school's access to CTE programs is very limited. In 2018-19, Elliott did not have any CTE programs, but when I came on board and when Dr. Noguchi came on board, she noted that we needed those programs there, and so we now have 3. Another statement was that the master schedule conflicts with English learner participation. We disagreed with that finding. Our English learners are able to participate in any CTE program at their site, and so we pulled the master schedule to identify how many CTE courses were offered at the same time as the required ALD courses, and we always had opportunities across the master schedules for students to have access. Promotion by districts of available CTE transportation is lacking. We disagreed partially with this. We have bus passes for the students to attend the high school of their choosing. And then recently we have, as I said before, adjusted the bell schedules and seat time, and so we will conduct an analysis of transportation options for CTE courses moving forward. Our students do not pay they don't have out-of-pocket payment for CTE expenses. We have a board policy, 3260, that states that our students will not pay for materials, and so that's true in our CTE courses as well. Promotion of CTE programs for English learners in continuation high schools is inadequate. We disagreed with that. In the report, we gave mention of all the different ways that we advertise our CTE programs and connect with our parents in those two areas. We also this year started using Parent Square, and that application does translate in the family's language in real time. So anytime we send anything out, it can be translated for the families. More support is needed for English learners and continuation high school students to improve access and promote equity. We disagreed with that. As I said, we have a robust parent engagement and outreach department that provides trainings and workshops for parents on a variety of topics, including our CTE programs and pathways. Participation. The finding was that EL enrollment varies by district and school. Yes, we agree with that. We don't have knowledge of all the other outlying districts, but what we do know is that within our district, we do have quite a few students that access our CTE programs, and you can see the numbers there. English learners enrollment and the number of students that access in comparison to our English-only enrollment and students that access. Finding number 10 was that the completion rate was low for English learners. And yes, we agree with that. It's actually, it is our goal to reclassify students to English fluent proficient. As a result, students that might not have initially been identified as English learners reclassify. And so if they don't reclassify prior to getting to high school, that is a requirement that they take an ALD class during their school day, which can impact their ability to take other coursework. The grad rate for continuation high school varies. We do agree with that finding. Elliott, though, we have increased our graduation rate by over 30% in the last year. So our 21-22 school year, we had 73% students graduating in comparison of the 19-20 school year with only 41%. So that's been a huge increase for our continuation high school, which we're very proud of. High school graduates who graduate have low college and career scores. And so we did agree with that finding. College and career readiness scores are made up of several factors. It's CTE completion rates, but it can also be A to G requirements, passing AP exams. There's a list there. And so given the combined requirements of English learners facing to complete their EL classwork, their graduation requirements, and then their own choice in their education, many do indeed have low college and career readiness scores as represented through the data dashboard. Finding 13, the percentage of continuation high school students who graduate varies from school to school, but the percent not college and career ready is significantly low, and yes, we do agree with that. At our continuation school, there is a reduction of credits. Students only need 200 credits to graduate from Elliott, and the reduction of credits is typically from their elective credits. So therefore, many of them do not meet the college and career readiness sequencing. And so, yes, it is lower, but they still have access to the pathways. Finding number 14, promoting greater participation in CTE to ELs and continuation high school students may help them succeed in college and career. Yes, we absolutely agree with that. And the findings, the responses to findings 1 through 14 in the report identify various strategies being utilized to increase awareness of CTE programming. So then we needed to respond to the recommendations. And so this next section of the presentation is how we responded to those recommendations. They had 8 of them. Districts, in this case, once again, we had very specific language that we needed to use in how we responded, as this was a grand jury request. So first, response to the recommendation that districts should develop strategies for reaching out to English learners and continuation high school students to promote CTE programs. Yes, that has been implemented prior to the grand jury report and recommendation and findings, and we'll continue to do that. Districts should develop strategies to support English learners and continuation high school students who enroll in CTE programs. This has been implemented, again, prior to the grand jury report, and it will continue to be implemented. Create more flexible class schedules to increase access for ELs and continuation high school students. Again, this has been implemented. We have a variety of opportunities. Response to recommendation number 4, by December 31st, districts whose continuation schools do not offer CTE should begin planning to incorporate such programs in their curriculum, and that we do already have that implemented with the 3 programs offered at Elliott. Response to recommendation number 5, to promote access, equity, and participation, districts should promote CTE transportation options. This particular one, we did agree, requires further analysis through review of our transportation department, updated bell schedules, and master scheduling. This recommendation will be examined moving forward. Recommendation 6, to promote access, equity, and participation. Districts should provide for out-of-pocket expenses for CTE enrollees, which we already do. That's already been implemented. Recommendation 7, districts should develop a plan to provide CTE learning applications that reflect the diversity of their population. That too has been implemented prior to the report. Modesto Schools has a wide variety of student applications provided through our educational technology and curriculum and instruction departments. Recommendation 8, that we should participate in a county-wide evaluation of why English learners and continuation high school students have such poor college and career-ready scores. I am a member of that committee. That's been a committee that's been in place for a number of years, but we do have a focus, a standing agenda item that is in relation to this particular report. Next steps, continue to expand and enhance available opportunities for English learners and continuation high school students, and then to ensure access and equity to high-quality programs that they are available to our English learners and continuation high school students. And now I will open it up to questions.
Thank you very much. I'll start off with the public. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this?
Again, I'm Aaron Anguiano from the Latino Community Roundtable. I have 3 children in school, 1 in high school, 1 in junior high, and 1 in elementary school. My son is in the medical health academy at Davis, and they're all college prep classes. So he should be ready to be he's going to be an nurse assistant, and hopefully he'll go to nursing school and get a bachelor's degree and then go to Merced, to medical school. But anyways, as you know, there's a 2030 Stanislaus plan. I was talking to Marianne Cannon, how minorities in our county, about 67%, are getting aid, so some type of governmental aid. And so we have a big economic gap between, you had the west side, the south side, and the airport. With disadvantaged communities and minorities. And so career technical education, of course, yeah, great thing, of course. But we need to make sure those children have access. And how are we going to bus a child from South Side to Gregory? I don't see a way. It's not going to happen. If I had my child in South Modesto, where my older children grew up, then there was no way. I used to take my son, Aaron, to the ag school at Bayer. He started going there, and I had to do it every morning before I went to work, and so we had to pick him up too. So I was thinking, out of the box, I guess, we could have bands, because we can have a whole bus from South Side to go to Gregory to take biomedical technology or whatever you got there. And so we either have those programs, be accessible to these children so that we can close the economic gap, or we bus them over there. But we can take a big bus for 3 kids, so then maybe we need to get some minivans or buses or something and transport them. But we need to do something. We can, in a democracy, you can't leave people behind and have a whole bunch of people are poor. Then we have the pipeline to prison and all those crimes and people breaking into houses. You know how many times I've been robbed in my house? We call it robbing, no slang word. But burglarized like 5 times. So I contribute to that too, you know. Some of our money has to go to them, right? One way or another, they either ask for it, we give it to them, or they steal it from us. So we got to do something. Keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Debbie Martinez, community. I too was once a parent. I foster at the end of the day. And I went to the grand jury 10 years ago, if anybody's interested in seeing that letter that was given back to me, before I was blessed with Advocate for Justice, who continued on with the quest to prove what it says here. District to district, I keep saying, I'm in 28 now, 3 counties. Yes, thank you for the report. You're on track. It's a very good report. Yes, Modesto City Schools is one of the biggest regions, but yet I'm going to go back to Ceres, one of the smallest districts, and yet their graduation rate is 98%. What's the difference from a big district or a little district? The difference is the bigger districts spend money, but not where it's supposed to be. Today I had a little boy. Your sign right there says every student matters. We had an EL student that came from Modesto High with his mother. She had no voice, English learner from Mexico. She had no voice. Her little boy is supposed to graduate in June. He's got straight Fs. He might as well not even come to school, but yet you guys got paid. And this governing board does what? Sit back and listen to report after report after report after report, and we are doing what with these reports? Federal court has come in, grand jury is now here, and yet we are now taking steps under the Every Student Succeed Act that has been on the books for 10 years now. This is sad. Thank you for your report.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak on this? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any questions or comments from our board members? I see Trustee Irvin.
Yes, Ms. Barks, thank you for the report from the Civil Grand Jury of Stanislaus County. Do you know of any other districts who have presented their reports on to the public of what the Civil Grand Jury has found within their districts, as well as it relates to this CTE and all the other information? I'm sure they were looking at the same information from all the districts. So do you know of any other districts who have publicly made theirs aware?
Yes, so part of the requirement was that we needed to present it to the board, either in closed session or open session. And so I do know that Turlock has also presented theirs in open session. As far as the other school districts, I'm not aware. I do believe that the actual report from the civil grand jury will be coming out shortly for public review, which will incorporate all of the data from all the different school districts.
So far, you know of 2 districts in our county that have so far publicly made their report known to the public. Okay.
Yes.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Vice President Brown.
Thank you for the report, and I know that this has taken an immense amount of time to prepare all of the data and the responses, and I thank you for that effort. And as we heard from some of these recommendations and findings, questions about parent outreach and parent involvement came to the surface and caused me to think, we do have adult education that is a part of what the district offers to students after they have left us and also for the adult members of our community. I'm wondering, and this is a bit off topic, so I apologize, but can we take some of the great things that we're doing in career technical education and build that into some of our adult education course offerings to assist families in understanding and being prepared to support their children and grow themselves?
Well, what I can say to that is that we do have a new individual that's overseeing our adult ed programming, and we do have we have expanded our opportunities. And so I know he's going to be doing a board report by the end of the school year, and so he'll be able to share some of those different opportunities with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've seen some other work on highlighted. We had a library full of parents ready to engage in adult ed, so
yes,
that would be great too, coming up. Trustee Maestas? Nope. Okay. Student Rep Patel?
So considering that Modesto City Schools is one of the biggest districts within the whole county, is it okay to presume that we are responsible for a majority of the EL learners in the district? Is it okay to assume that, or is that not accurate?
As far as in the county goes, yes.
Okay, so then with the district agreeing with the finding 10, the CTE completion rate for English learner is low. And then the other finding, more support is needed for English learners and continuation high school students to improve access and promote equity of CTE pathways. Is this because EL learners are placed in classes for CTE with students who already are proficient in English, or do they have separate classes?
So in regards to this, it was more as to whether or not the students have access to fit that into their schedule. Is it a master scheduling issue? Are we providing enough opportunities? Our EL students do have to take an ALD class, so a class to learn English skills. So that takes up part of their schedule. And so this particular concern is that do we only offer CTE classes at the same time as the ALD class, which prohibits them from having access to classes at other times during the day? And so our response is no. We have offerings throughout the day. Students have access through their master scheduling. So it's not a barrier in the CTE class, it's a barrier to getting to a CTE class, which we would say, no, there isn't one.
Okay, and then since the completion rate for English learners is lower, is that what the district agreed with, is that because of the language barrier, or is it for some other reason?
Typically, it's because they can't fit it into they take the ALD class during the day, or perhaps some other courses that they need. We haven't done a deep dive to know exactly I have the basic numbers here, but not a deep dive to take a look at specific students.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other board member wishing to speak or ask a question? Seeing none, again, we appreciate the report. As mentioned by Trustee Irvin, we wait to see everyone else's, of the other school boards, and then to hear the grand jury in general, right? But thank you for the report and thank you for bringing it up for our public to know as well. With that, we'll be moving on to our last item of the evening, and that is B6, which is the approval of second reading of the proposed draft of board policy BP. Okay, I'm being asked to do a 5-minute break, so we will come back at We'll come back at 8:25. I'll ask everyone to come on back. I'll ask for everyone to come on back so we can continue our meeting. We're on our last item of the evening, which is B6, approval of second reading, a proposed draft of Board Policy BP 5145.9, hate-motivated behavior. This is Mr. Herbst.
All right, good evening, Board President Lopez and trustees, trying to stay warm. BP 5145.9 includes information on hate-motivated behavior and was pulled at the request, of trustee Marks after our last Saturday board meeting. Embedded in the policy is the board's desire to maintain a safe learning environment free from discrimination, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. This policy falls in line with the ongoing work surrounding equity training, restorative practices, and culturally responsive teaching, as well as the site positive behavior intervention and support plans. This new language is taken directly from CSBA. It's recommended the board approve the second reading of BP 5145.9.
Thank you very much. I'll take it out to public. Is there anyone wanting to speak on this matter?
Good evening. My name is Pamela LaChapelle, and I am a guest teacher for Modesto City Schools and have served in the district for about 7 years now. So I can't yet one-up you, Trustee West, yet. I deeply respect the vital role of teachers in our society. At the same time, I care very deeply for the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being of every child in our community. That is what brings me here today. Let me start with this. Hate-motivated behavior should not be tolerated in our schools. I think we can all passionately agree on this. With the advent of social media, it seems that name-calling, hate-filled speech, and false accusations are flying more readily in every direction, designed to shame people into submission. Words such as racist, homophobe, misogynist, libtard, or pro-war are a few slurs that are slung at people quite liberally today. Civil discourse is becoming harder and harder to find in social media and on our campuses as well. Parents, teachers, students, administrators, and you, our trustees, have an opportunity here to be the architects of a process that will help develop thoughtful, responsible human beings in a challenging, safe, and supportive learning environment. Does it surprise you to know that some teachers are concerned that this agenda item, after procedures are set in place, will likely lead to false accusations from students who simply don't like them? Does it concern you, as it concerns me, that students can retaliate against a student they dislike by simply accusing them of hate-motivated behavior? Some of the verbiage in this policy could open a Pandora's box. It could be abused, weaponized to intimidate those that a student dislikes, which then will subject innocent teachers and students to investigations, possibly leading to counseling, education, and discipline. And if employees are found to be exhibiting hate-motivated behavior, they shall be subject to disciplinary action up to and including dismissal. So while developing effective response plans, it is imperative to include safeguards that will protect students and teachers from false accusations made by disgruntled students bent on retaliation, while also accurately while accurately identifying and addressing intentional hate-motivated behavior. So some questions. How will it be determined if hate-motivated behavior is merely perceived as such or is actually intended? In other words, how will you determine if behavior is motivated by hate? And will the one being accused be considered guilty until proven innocent? Thank you for your time.
Spoken from an educator. Thank you for those words. Thank you. My name is Debbie Martinez. We all know each other here. I have some concerns myself as far as being a parent advocate. Can somebody explain what number 5 means? And can you break that down for me, please? Also, this is a big one for me. We've been in the LCAP for 10 years now. And when I get to the school sites, and when I have a parent that wants to put a valid complaint, and I ask for uniform complaint procedures, employee grievances, thank you, Dr. Noguchi, we finally got those. They have no clue what I'm asking for. So right here, it states that principals or designated, I'm assuming VP, shall inform. They don't even know. So maybe you should go back and teach the principals and VPs what a uniform complaint procedure is, what it's designated for, and how to pull it when we're requesting. Because I'm not always at these school sites. So when they call me, I will tell them, well, ask for a uniform complaint procedure along with board policies and VPs. And it's like speaking Chinese to half of your administration. Then today, we had a student from Mohai indicate that teachers are classifying them as gang members. And so under your, cross-references? 5136 gangs. What does NA mean if our children are still saying at Downey and Mohai that they're being classified and placed on a gang list? Can we get that fixed before we approve this? And the last one would be 5145.2, freedom of speech and expression. What does that mean? I thought that was already amended with our First Amendment. So I'm not happy with this. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else wishing to speak on this?
My name is Cecilia Watkins, and I am a parent. And my only concern with this is that what is written here, I don't know what your strategic plan is, the strategy that you're coming up with, but I highly recommend that it has boundaries and it has outlined exactly what behaviors you're talking about, because as someone who works with at-risk youth in the community as a volunteer, I deal with so many young people who purposely attack teachers, and I would hate to see teachers lose their jobs, like those that are losing their jobs in Texas right now for calling students the wrong pronouns and now being called a bigot or having hate thrown at them. You can look up every one of those cases that are now in the news. But also, just as a parent, where, as teachers have a tough job. Kids go to school with a variety of kids that are growing up in homes we all know that are different, because your home looked different from her home, his home, and they're gonna go in sometimes moody. And I don't, as a parent, that shouldn't dictate how they address a situation in terms of maybe they're the ones that are out of place. So I know that part of your strategy should be, right, investigation, looking into what that looks like, understanding that we're dealing with a generation right now that is very sensitive. I hate to say that, but if we continue to teach them to be offended, they'll be offended. And if we teach them that it's okay to attack someone that disagrees with them, they're going to continue to disagree. And when something doesn't sound like the way they want it to sound, it's like a 3-year-old throwing a fit. We can't do that. We have to have rules, but they have to also favor not only our students and protect them, but they need to protect the teachers as well. Because the teachers are putting their life out there. They're putting their heart's work into it. And the other thing that it says includes effective enforcement of rules for appropriate student conduct. And then also back here it says provides strategies to manage conflict constructively. I was wondering if the Modesto City Schools still has the program for conflict mediation. When I went to Bayer, I was a conflict mediator as a freshman and a sophomore and a junior. And anytime somebody was offended or got upset, even with the teacher, they called in the students to be a representative. And I think that that's a positive thing to sit with your teachers and students and talk things out versus go straight to the superintendent and everybody else to cause a complaint. So if that's there, then I just highly encourage we offer that continuously, because we need to teach them better to speak, to communicate the issue.
Thank you.
I'm Aaron Anguero again. Well, it's like a sort of two edges, and people have to be careful how they enforce it if you pass this resolution or policy. Because someone can just hear the word and, oh my God, that was discriminatory, and then you end up like suspending the child or expelling them or who knows what. There's freedom of speech too. Like, my kids will call each other Beaner, and nobody cares, But of course, if a white kid calls my son Beaner or wetback or something, then there's going to be an issue, right? Because it's hate motivated. So I was reading it and I go, okay, if it's hate motivated, but it can be subjective, and anyone, especially if it's a white teacher, which you have like 80-90% white teachers in your school district. Well, don't get me going into firing the human resources people. But anyways, I don't know. People have freedom of speech, and it's going to be one thing against the other, and I don't know what can happen in court. I don't think nothing will happen in court anyways, because, you have a junior high in the name of this guy that used to cuss all the time. Samuel Clemens taught you that, says, you know what? We learned to cuss before we learned to talk. You're in the crib yelling and screaming, how come this woman don't come to hit me, or whatever. And so Samuel Clemens taught us that cussing or saying all kinds of blasphemies was okay. You name a junior high in his name, on California Street. So I don't know. It's just, I don't agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll be brief. Just to throw out there, as a veteran teacher, I have no problem with the policy. I frequently speak to my students about needing to learn, and there is freedom of speech, but academic setting, isn't that there is a difference between home with your brother and being in a school or in a classroom, and we as teachers, as professionals, I think already operate within these boundaries, or should anyway, so I think there's no problem with this.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening, board members. I know a lot of you guys, so it's good to be here to share my voice. I'll try to be quick and brief. I just want to share and present this situation that I guess I'm dealing with or have went through. So this is an email that I sent out to some of you guys here, and then I'm gonna share a student letter. Good day, just sharing this letter from 2019, written by former Grace M. Davis students. The use of the N-word has only gotten worse here on campus, and I plan to follow up the best way I know how. We were not supported then, and nothing has been addressed to rectify since. Our students are not given the tools to circumvent. I'm starting to not feel safe and cannot continue to use personal time for self-care in this toxic environment. Unfortunately, the stakes are now higher. More is required now than the project our students offered back in 2019. Hope this helps. Here's a letter from the student. Hello, parent Spartans. My name is Deviana Fisher, president of the Black Student Union Club, and I'm writing to you today to tell you about a project we have going on at Davis. This is in 2019. Recently, there has been issues regarding the repeated use of the N-word in and out of the classroom setting, both the A and the ER versions. This issue has came to the point of physical violence, and my club members, as well as I, would like it to cease. So our whole project is based on the eradication of the N-word from all demographics while on campus, and to use more uplifting words such as king, queen, brother, brother, and/or sister, sister, etc. We view the word as hate speech and as a derogatory term used to degrade African Americans back then and now. I know many of our students have grown up with the word being thrown around playfully, including myself. So it is going to take some time to not use the word. We believe it is possible to get rid of the word on campus. As I stated earlier, we want to encourage students to use uplifting words in place of the N-word, because if you would not say it in a job interview, why should you be saying it freely in class? We come to you parents asking that you have a talk with your student. Ask them why they want to use the word and tell them why the word is not acceptable to use anymore. We feel you could really help us out in trying to get this movement off the ground. Any help is greatly appreciated. Sincerely, Deviana Fisher, now a college student at Bakersfield University. We presented this to the admin at that time, and they denied this request to get started on this project. So my thing is, a community member mentioned earlier that we are very, I guess, reactive instead of proactive. So I hope that we listen to the whole community, all right, and try to tackle some of these issues. And maybe this policy that you guys are implementing will be the start of that. Not sure. I'm just now getting aware of it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any other person wishing to speak on this item?
My name is Cheryl Van Horn, and I want to highlight a word that is used in the last sentence just before the second reading proposed draft, BP 5145.9. The word is celebrated. It's on the first page near the bottom. As used in this sentence, I believe is inappropriate. While we want to promote an environment where diversity is respected, this word goes too far because it suggests that someone can be forced or required to celebrate something that may be against their family values, their understanding of science, their religious convictions, or their belief that some things bring harm rather than health to their children. Let us design strategies that promote harmonious relationships among students, prevent hate-motivated behavior to the extent possible, and address incidences when they occur. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for any comments or questions. Trustee Marks.
Go. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate hearing from you and heard a lot of items I did not consider when I was looking at this document. I know that there's teachers that were afraid to come tonight because they felt intimidated that this was something they might be treated differently if they spoke up at the board meeting. And so anyway, that's happened in other items too. So I just wanted to ask for, I want to make a couple of comments about, I appreciated the not using the N-word. I remember in the past I had asked if we could have a no swearing policy and no derogatory terms policy and discipline students based on that, and at least let them know that this is not appropriate at school, because they found that when they gave students they did a study in a school where they tried to help them with their behavior, that all fights had started with swearing. And so they found out that if they could stop that before it started, they could help the students not get into altercations with one another. So, which is exactly what I heard tonight, that it's just, when you start calling each other names, it increases a lot of frustration, anxiety, anger, and you're being attacked by words. And so I felt like that was something that we should really focus on. I couldn't get any traction on it, but maybe this is a good time for us to actually look at those kinds of policies to be able to help students speak words of kindness, words of thoughtfulness. I had asked the staff to, and all of you got this document, Principals' Rights, Respect, Responsibility, and Respect to ensure a safe school environment. So I know this document is really old, but I just want to let you know that over 100 community members, all extreme, right, left, everywhere in between, came together, and 100% of them agreed on this document. So I was not on the board when this committee was formed. I came on the board right afterwards, and it was like my second board meeting. So we had to hold our meeting in another venue because so many people came to comment on this and support this document. So I just want to read something that Charles Haynes, we had him, he was a consultant. We asked him, the district had asked him to come out and actually work with this committee and come up with some ways that they could find some peace in our district because there was so much animosity between different groups. And so here's what he said. He said, rights are best guarded and responsibilities best exercised when each person and group guards for all others those rights they wish guarded for themselves. A society is only as just and free as it is respectful of this right for its smallest minorities and least popular communities. So when he came out and talked about that, it helped us see that we need to guard all the protections of everyone. So it wasn't just the ones who had the power. And living in a democracy is a great thing, but we live in a republic. So a democracy means that the most people, if you're a mob, you have the biggest voice, you have the biggest power, you have the means to do something against someone. But if you're a republic, you have people representing. They're the ones who came to be your representative, to fight for you, to do the right thing for you. And so I'm so appreciative of the fact that we live in a republic, that we can support what is best and guard the rights of the least of these. The least of these. I think that's a good word. But this has been really difficult, and I apologize, I get a little emotional, because I want to protect every student and every teacher in our district. I want everyone to feel safe. I don't want anyone to experience any hate-motivated behavior. And I think all of us have experienced something, some bullying, some type of horrendous people in our lives at different times that have made it very painful for us. And I don't wish for any student to have that happen. I am trying to look at this and say, is this going to solve that problem? Is this document going to solve that problem? If we implement it, I just can't say yes to that fact that I believe it will solve that problem. I believe what's happening in our district and around our United States goes much deeper than doing a document that says we're going to make sure that we do all these things. I believe it goes to who are we as people? How do we treat one another? I know that we implemented character education into our district because we felt like that was the most important thing. It was based on 9 character traits that the community came up with. So then we put it out as 1 month a year, different schools, all the schools were actually doing it at the same time. And that helped students see. And then we implemented the conflict mediation, and we did a lot more things where we helped students understand how would their words hurt one another, how when they say things it's causing extreme pain, and then to actually have a dialogue about that. I just can't look at this. There's parts of it that I really like and parts that I believe, oh yeah, if we did that or if we helped work on that, I think that would help our students. But I can't look at this and say this is going to solve our problems. Just because CSBA wrote it out makes it, I can't put a hand stamp on it and say this is what we should do. So tonight, I wasn't planning to do this. I was going to make some edits and say, can we do this? Can we do that? And then I heard from some of you, and I don't know, I just feel like we need to go and do a better job of determining what will best serve our students and the least in our community and those that have been treated harmfully. So I'm going to vote no on this tonight. In my own heart, I wasn't going to do that, but I just feel like after I heard, I didn't know some of the things that were told tonight. So I'm going to vote no on this. I support our students. I support not having any hate-motivated behavior, but I can't say this document is going to do that for me. So I'm going to vote no on this tonight.
Trustee West?
This discussion has gone a lot deeper than I expected, and I appreciate the comments from every single person tonight. I'm wondering, is this something, I don't know what the protocol is, can this be brought back again after some further discussion?
It can be if the board decides to move in that direction. The only point that I want to make out, despite the hate-motivated behaviors, remember there is a Title IX requirement out there on anti-discrimination based on protected classes, which includes bullying. So just to speak in terms of my thoughts on it, much to the point that Mr. Rucker had made, there's a lot of information on ways to work to combat some of the things that were discussed here today. So this basically takes the Title IX requirements on anti-discrimination, intimidation based on any of the protected classes, and provides specific strategies that the district could move forward with implementation on.
Now, Mr. Herbst, this, as we talk a lot about BPs and ARs. The BP is the what, the AR is the how, right? Where is our AR for this policy?
There's not a recommendation for an AR, at least according to California School Boards Association. That doesn't mean that there couldn't be. I would tell you that this board policy, in my opinion, does start to lay out the how with some of the things that they put in here. So I see some of those pieces embedded into the board policy.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Maestas?
Yeah, that was exactly my question that I wrote down was, can we bring this back when we have some maybe outline of an AR that will give us a little bit of outline on how it's going to be utilized, so then we know, there are some protections in there for teachers or students that are, that are being complained about, but not actual, like an investigation is done and there's no justification from that. Because there are cases like that. But that would be in an AR, not in the BP. So that's kind of what I wanted to see on an AR. Just a thought that I had to go back to what Trustee Marks was saying. I agree that this is not going to solve the issue. I mean, there was a thought I had about teaching some students math, right? I can't solve the poverty issue in my area that my students go home to from my math class. But I can teach them how to do savings or do some mathematics behind saving energy or saving money and not falling into credit pits. I can take the issue in front of me and help to change the bigger issue that's around. And if we don't step forward and make some change, then things like the Black Student Union that wants to do a program that will help in the bigger issue won't get started. So we need to make some steps to get things started, or else we're never going to get to the path where we can actually solve the bigger problem. Because there's no way we're going to change, like, we're not going to be able to take down Instagram and Twitter. And that's where a lot of that bullying happens. Like, we can't do that. But what can we do as we can control within our space to help our students make better decisions? Because that's what it's going to come down to. And we can't stop a student from doing certain things, but we can help them understand how to make better decisions. In that way, I do like the policy, but I would like to see a little bit of an AR to see how we can have some of those protections, investigation, things like that, aside from this.
The only piece, if you don't mind, that I'll point out is when you engage in what is perceived even as discriminatory behavior against a protected class, our method of going through that is the uniform complaint procedure. And so as you guys have approved the uniform complaint procedure, it seems to be updated because there's slight adjustments on the year-to-year basis. But that really speaks to your point, Trustee Maestas, about the investigation component behind how we would handle a discriminatory act toward a protected class.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's just wording, but in the third page, where it says, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it says employees who engage in hate-motivated behavior shall be subject to disciplinary action. I wonder if the words employees who are found to have engaged in hate-motivated behavior, I don't know if that.
Through the uniform complaint.
Right, through the uniform complaint, or something that's a little bit more pointed towards an investigation, so that there's something there that just doesn't say that they're being blamed for it. That's all I have.
What was that part?
Let's get what you just said there.
Okay, so I would like, at least, I mean, I'm thinking something to come back.
Right.
But the wording on the third page after number 6, where it says employees who engage in hate-motivated behavior, I would like that to be changed to employees who are found to have engaged in hate-motivated behavior through, what was that, through the uniform complaint procedure, shall be subject to disciplinary action up to and including dismissal. It's just a little bit more of that, you're going to investigate that than take someone's word.
Perfect. So I know I have a couple other people that want to talk, so I'm gonna, before we vote on that change, I'll let them talk and then we'll see where we end up. Okay? Vice President Brown.
Called early.
Okay, I think I'm muted. Appreciate the conversation that I'm hearing tonight and the concerns that are brought forward with this particular policy. I'm interested in what Mr. Herbst has told us, that there are some legal matters that are addressed specifically in this policy that we need to have in policy. I would support a rewrite that would very specifically address the legal aspect of the policy, and recommend possibly using the document that Trustee Marks has indicated, or some rewrite of that as a start to an AR. And I'd really like us to have a committee look at this and see if we can't have a rewrite that more addresses the heartfelt feelings of our need for improved relations across all sectors and the things that have been discussed tonight.
So for clarifying purposes, Vice President Brown, are you asking for a tabling, or are you asking for a committee to be made after passing or not passing this evening?
I'm asking that we not approve it as it is now written, but look at a rewrite that could be perhaps more effective.
Okay.
I think I realize it's late, but I would need to have some direction on what that means. What does that mean to have something rewritten, to have more direction when let me see that one. When we saw the comment of employees who have been found to have engaged through the uniform complaint, and then it goes on. So that, to me, is defining how that would then be enforced. I don't know what else. I don't know the direction. I don't know the direction that I'm being asked to be given.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple directions, and that's why I was trying to narrow them out, right? So we do have, Vice President Brown, we do have in addition to the proposed BP, as Dr. Noguchi read out, there's, so I don't know if that's sufficient or, we'll leave, I'll entertain the last two board members that were wanting to speak, and then I'll sort out what we need to vote on.
Perfect.
Trustee Irvin?
Yes, what I wanted to point out in this is, with just like with any board policy we have, nothing is going to be effective or a solution unless you got accountability behind it and consistency and accountability. So otherwise, it's just words on paper. So what Mr. Rucker came up and said basically is something that, there's no consistency in addressing the issues when they arise, and then when they bring it to the attention, whether it be administrators on campus or wherever, that they don't feel supported and they're trying to address the issues at hand. And for me, that's any board policy. If we don't have accountability and consistency behind it, no, it's not going to be a solution. And this board policy is no different. I would agree that we could use some AR language in here to help flush out any inconsistencies that might be prevalent here. But from a policy standpoint, I feel that the policy addresses the issues. It just need to be consistently accountable. I'm not going to say enforced, but accountability and consistency need to be behind it in order for it to be a solution to some of the issues that we are having in this area, because this is something that just didn't start. We have allowed this in our community, in our schools, and everywhere to get out of control. And now we're trying to rein it in, and it's going to take more than just this policy to rein it in. And so, but this to me is now a start of something that has been allowed to spiral out of control. And so, if we're going to add some AR language to it, I'm for that. But I'm actually, for the policy as written with the changes proposed by Trustee Maestas and also Trustee Vice President Brown. But in terms of trying to help flesh out some of the how to the policy.
Right. Trustee Mejia?
I just want to, I don't know if I can just motion that we table, then we reconvene so we can actually have a larger discussion and look at a potential, committee or whatever we want to look at. So I just think I want a motion that we table it and then spend some more time on it. I know we have some, I don't know, when we have some more time that we can put into future meetings that we have. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
I don't know if do I just make a motion or? how does that
Well,
work?
I'll accept your motion. I was gonna ask for a motion on that because that was the first thing that was brought up, the tabling. So if tabling doesn't happen, then I'll bring up the VP with the modifications, and if that doesn't happen, then then we'll vote for the VP as is. What, did you have a final comment?
So rather than tabling it and bringing it back, I know I had asked if that was possible earlier. After hearing some other suggestions, I'm wondering if we want to make the change, vote on it, but with the understanding that we're going to work on an AR so that we can further flesh out some of the how this is to be done. Would that be something that might be a little bit more feasible than forming a committee and bringing this whole thing back again?
So we could definitely incorporate into the second motion if the first motion doesn't pass. So, because we do have a first motion, I just want to say, I also agree with my colleagues that I believe that this is a right first step. It's not one VP is gonna ever gonna solve all the issues that we have. But we need to establish our support against hate motivated behavior, right? Then it's gonna I believe that a lot of the AR will look like a lot of what we're already doing when scenarios happen, right? This is just kind of giving it a space and giving our thumbs up of that we want to work to be a part of the solution against hate motivated speech or behavior, more to say. So I believe that, I would vote in favor of moving this, knowing that we do possibly have an AR coming in the future, and knowing that we know that the work, as was mentioned earlier, the work is there, and the work needs to be done, and needs to be shown that we're in support of that work.
Could we do that vote first, and then if that doesn't pass, then we know we can table it?
And since Trustee Mejia did bring it up, I have to go through that motion. So I will go through the motion.
May I speak?
Sure.
I pushed my light a little while ago, but I just wanted to say one last thing. I appreciate the thought and ideas of tabling this or doing it at another time, because I recognize that there's so much more to this that needs to be done. I would like to see, I thought that was a great idea, to have a committee to be able to at least, and other teachers, to be able to have input on this that felt like they couldn't tonight because they didn't know how they'd be treated. I don't know if they'd come to a committee, but I think because they're the ones who are going to be responsible for ensuring that hate-motivated behavior doesn't happen in their classroom by their students, and then they're learning how that they don't want to inflict any of that on anyone. So I just wanted to say that I would like to see that. This document has so many great things in it that you were sent, and it took a year to come up with this document, but it's a good one, and I would like to see it implemented into somehow, some way, because I'm going to read just a short portion of it to you, that our schools will be free from discrimination and harassment based on race, religion, ethnic background, or national origin, language, gender, sexual orientation, economic status, physical or developmental disabilities, or other special needs, in which the total school environment is free from verbal or physical intimidation or harassment, including sexual harassment, vulgar or abusive language, derogatory, ethnic, racial, or sexual slurs, or conduct or acts of violence, in which the dignity and worth of all individuals are respected. It was a bunch of people that came up with that, and I just appreciate the fact that they did and that everybody could agree on it. So to me, there's portions of it in this, it just isn't it. But I'm going to be quiet and allow you to vote on that, and I'll second the motion from Trustee Mejia.
Okay, so we have a motion to table this.
Question. So the AR, I assume that's the action. Can that address the protections for the teachers and the students?
Yeah, the protections, any allegation of bullying, whether it be discrimination-based or any allegation of discriminatory-based bullying or intimidation is going to be investigated. And so that would happen whether or not it was a protected class or not, needs to be investigated. We need to be able to provide a written summary of what that investigation looks like. So my only hesitance, I hear a lot of feedback here. Again, a lot of the investigation stuff would fall under the UCP, which we already have, but I don't mind putting that back into, or at least referencing it in an AR. But yeah, that would be our process.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I have a motion to table this item, just to table this item, and I have a second by Trustee Marks. I will conduct a roll call vote. Student Board Rep Patel? Tabling.
Nay.
Trustee Irvin?
Nay.
Trustee Maestas?
Nay.
Trustee Marks?
Aye.
Trustee Mejia? Trustee West?
Nay.
Vice President Brown?
Nay.
President Lopez? Nay. Okay, that motion does not pass, and so we'll be making a vote on VP 51. I'll call the vote for VP 5145.9, hate-motivated behavior. Do I have a motion with the change made? So that's the direction we're giving to Dr. Noguchi and her staff, that we want an AR to come back in the future. So that's not part of the motion, but that's the direction we're giving to Dr. Noguchi. Correct? Yeah, okay. So I have a motion to approve BP 5145.9. Do I hear a second? Second by Trustee Irvin. And I'll again take roll call. Student Rep Patel,
Aye.
Trustee Irvin,
Aye.
Trustee Maestas,
Aye.
Trustee Marks,
Nay.
Trustee Mejia,
Aye.
Trustee West,
Aye.
Vice President Brown,
Aye.
President Lopez, aye. Motion passes 7-1. 6-1, and student board rep preferential vote, and as an aye. Okay. So this takes us to our last, this takes us to motion to adjourn. Our next meeting will be on December 12th, 2022. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Motion by Trustee Maestas, seconded by Trustee Mejia. I'll take a roll call to end this meeting. Student Rep Patel,
Aye.
Trustee Irvin,
Aye.
Trustee Maestas,
Aye.
Trustee Marks,
Aye.
Trustee Mejia, Trustee West,
Aye.
Vice President Brown,
Aye.
President Lopez, aye. Have a wonderful evening and happy Thanksgiving to everyone.